Hello everybody and welcome back for the action at the British Open, and it's a brilliant clash of two people from Scotland. It is a Scottish derby if you like it. It is Anthony Mcgill with his return to the semi-final stage for the first time in 3 years and up against probably one of the most successful Scottish snooker players of all time, barring Stephen Hendry there. It is the world number 6 that is going to be up against him, John Higgins. We've got pretty much an English and a Scottish derby ahead of ourselves in the two semi-finals. Mark Selby and Shaun Murphy will battle for the second semi-final a little bit later on. But until then, it is all about the action on table number 1. And it will be John Higgins to get us underway in this opening frame. How are we all doing? Certainly looking forward to this one. It's been a very quick tournament, the British Open, as it always is. But it has already provided us with some great matchups, and let's see if today is not going to be an exception out of the ordinary. For now, it's a great break off there by Higgins to get himself underway. And hello everyone, how are we all doing? As I say, 82%. Oh good, hope you're okay. Yeah, brilliant. So far so good. And yeah, looking forward to see Higgins and Mcgill at the stage. I've seen quite a little bit of both. I've seen Mcgill's match against Salgadon. Was quite a good performance from him. Seen glimpses of him against Dan Moody as well. Jaganda. He had a little bit of a difficult campaign there. Anthony Mcgill, the world number 57 currently. And John Higgins not necessarily. I mean, the easiest of the opposition as well. I mean, the likes of Jack Lisowski and Zhao Xingdong ahead of himself, and of course until yesterday he had to face Louis Heathcote and managed to win 4 frames on the bounce there, get himself nicely into the semi-final clash. Let's see who's going to come out on top of this Scottish derby. For now it is Higgins with a chance to take a red into the left corner, try and get himself up into the race. Been very aggressive yesterday, and a positive thing to see there from John Higgins. Let's see if the tendency will continue today, and it certainly will start off with a brilliant red in towards the left corner. John Higgins is certainly underway here. He gets himself perfectly on either brown or green. Just depends which one of those he would prefer to get himself back down the table. But until then, it's a perfect start for John Higgins. And it's the... Sorry about that. And it's the perfect start for him in terms of the reds and the way they're spread out actually on the table. So he's already 5 points clear. The black, it's probably the only problem that he actually has to face himself with. I think the pink is going to be possible into pretty much all 4 of the corner pockets there, as well as the middle. And for now it's red to roll into the left corner. I think it'll be the switch of the play for the pink into the opposite corner. And well, so many reds for him to try and choose from. I think if he gets the black into the open play, it would be a frame-winning chance there for him. Until then, has to focus on what's ahead of himself there, and just take it step by step. So far, he's dominating the poll. 82% of you think that John Higgins will be the first finalist, and probably 82 and a bit if you count me in. As I say, score prediction for me, it's going to be 6-3. In favour of Higgins. I do expect Mcgill to take a couple of frames away from him, but don't think that's going to be enough to dispatch the world number 6 out of the arena. Still by far the highest ranking seed left out in the tournament, with Mark Selby being the world number 10 right after him, and Shaun Murphy is going to be the 3rd highest seed in the tournament, still world number 16 after being back in the top 16 after missing a couple of weeks there. In the 17th spot. Mentioned that it was good while it lasted, and he was actually never aware of the fantastic 19-year streak there for him. And yeah, a little bit of a delay there. The referee just trying to get the pink back underneath the reds, and nice start from Higgins so far. And yeah, I mean, it was a brilliant pot there, and he needs to make sure he develops the black right now, otherwise he'll be struggling in terms of the colours, but he managed to do that. And he's nicely away now into the bunch of reds. And the question for me is, how much of a fire and how much energy does John Higgins still have going into this match. Had to face quite a few difficult deciders there against Jack Lisowski and Mark Davies in the opening 2 rounds. Didn't have to do that ever since. But once again sends the cue ball really nicely there into the bunch of reds. Get himself lined up on one of those into the right corner. And the position still looking very nicely there for him. So a little bit of topspin and play through 2 cushions here onto the black once again. Decided that there was enough angle there on the cue ball to make it only a single cushion there. But I don't think he would have liked to see so much angle on the black because, well, really, he would have liked to send the cue ball up the other way. And so now he's got a little bit of a decision ahead of himself. Does he go for the red into the left corner along the cushion there on the black cushion? Or does he try and inject some pace into the cue ball and get it up into some of the reds into the left corner? I think he's gone for option number 2. And as the cue ball got the pace, just about does. And he's still alright here, Higgins. So taking all of those reds with the black so far, up since the first one, which he had to use the brown on the ball cushion. But this red is not easy to go into the left corner. Of course, the cue ball is not going to go anywhere near the black this time around. Going to go quite close to the blue here, into the right middle, but needs to make sure this one is in, and he will be. Straight in the heart of the pocket it goes. And now it's already 30 points or so for Higgins on the current break. Still no sign of him running out of red so far. And having a perfect start to his name. Once again sending the cue ball down the table. He's got a large area of reds to try and aim himself for. And it looks like he's under on the cue ball slightly. So once again has to send the white towards the blue there. There's going to be a lot of pace generated by this angle. To just make sure that the red is actually going to drop in there. The pink has gone back into the play, but should it be potted, once again he'll have to go underneath the red, so I don't think Higgins will be looking to try and use that unless he actually needs it to. So for now it's a rest shot once again now for John Higgins. Managed to put one of those earlier in the frame. And once again send the cue ball into the red here and get himself lined up on either one of the colours. He's alright here, but as I say, I think it would have been a little bit easier for him to try and get himself on the blue. The red was nicely in the pocket, but a lot of distance this time around in between the cue ball and either pink or black here to go into the right middle corner. And that is not necessarily improved by the fact that he hasn't got any reds that are in open play to try and line himself after the shot. So has to either dip screw into the pink to line himself for a red into the right corner, or try and accelerate the cue ball from the black there to run underneath the red into the left middle. Having looked to see if he's got any more reds available to his name, but doesn't look to be the case. Yesterday Higgins had an easy game, as I think Heathcote was overcome with occasion. Same with Mann. I think Mitchell Mann and Lou Heathcote have found themselves, well, having a decent campaign certainly, but I think it was always going to be a little bit of a head start there for Murphy and Higgins, and in the end it proved to be the case, especially with Murphy, because I've actually seen the match, but I've seen the majority of the Higgins against Heathcote as well, and he was dominating the later 4 frames. And there was just no real way that Heathcote was actually going to win this one. The world number 88 and 91, Mitchell Mann and Lou Heathcote. So, a good campaign for them, getting 14,000 of ranking points on the board. And in the end, it looks like it will be just 42 points scored there for Higgins, as he has to send the cue ball up the table and settle for a 42-point cushion right now. So Anthony Mcgill has got himself another chance here into this frame, but for now, looks like it's just a chance of a safety shot. And just looking to see if this red can be rolled into the pocket. But as I say, don't think the colour possibility is going to be too good for Mcgill anyway. So I think he'll probably try and set the cue ball in towards the lower part of the table. But he looks to be taking this red seriously right now, trying to see what can he actually make out of it. In the end, he goes for a safety shot, so probably the right decision there for him Don't think he could have yet on any of the colours there. And he gone for the red into the right corner with a high possibility of him actually missing the shot. Just about alright to make sure Higgins doesn't have a red into the left corner. So the red that Mcgill has actually sent into the top part of the table is likely to be played by Higgins once again here. Sending towards the green pocket. And send the cue ball in behind the colours, but catches the yellow full ball there. Don't think that would have been part of the plan. And Anthony Mcgill has got himself lined up on a really straightforward shot. You could try and take on as a double, had the angle been more lenient towards the cue ball, going in behind the ball colours. But I think that Mcgill will have to settle for catching the edge of this red and sending the cue ball in behind the yellow. That is actually gone in the perfect snooker position for him. So let's see what his shot selection is going to be here. As I say, it'll take some sort of comeback for him to try and get himself back in this frame. And nearly got a massive fluke there to his name. As I say, he's gone for the trajectory of a double. He was always going to miss that one. I don't think he was actually aiming for the double. Got the blue on the way in. And they actually got a nice little kiss into the middle pocket, but missed it by a fraction. So Higgins hasn't got too much of room here for him to go for. But as I say, it's not looking good for Mcgill at these points of the frame, with the blue, pink and black all being out of position and not necessarily in possible angle right now. The reds are still, the majority of them, still positioned very nicely. And it's a brilliant shot if you're playing billiard, but it's a horrible shot if you're playing snooker there from Higgins, because the cue ball has gone right into the pocket there, off the right corner. And whatever Higgins was trying to do, he obviously got this one very wrong. And, well, the good news is, even though it's going to be a ball in hand for Anthony Mcgill, I don't think he's got any real chance of a possibility to go for a red into either right or left corner. So just send the cue ball up the table yet again here. And get himself with a little bit of breathing space. And the line of the cue ball is looking very nice indeed. Just wants to slow down, and it's a perfect shot there for Anthony Mcgill. I mean, talk about using that ball in hand to the maximum opportunity. That is an absolute beauty of a shot. As I said, the trajectory, the pace, the reds, and the way he managed to sort of keep them quiet there. It was absolutely a perfect shot, and all of a sudden, John Higgins is in trouble. The only downside of that shot from Mcgill is probably going to be the fact that the black is gone onto the left hand cushion. But apart from that, it is still Anthony Mcgill fighting back in this frame. And, you know, the first safety shot put Higgins into so much trouble. We had to pot the cue ball to get out of that situation. And right now, he needs to go for a two-cushion escape there to catch one of the reds. In the end, he won't. And does he leave a red on for Anthony Mcgill is the question. I think he will. So it's 4 more points there for Anthony. And 34 points in behind right now. Higgins has to go back to his seat, and you never know, he might have to spend the majority of the frame in it right now, because it is a chance for Anthony Mcgill. He won't ask for John Higgins to go for the same shot again here, and rolling this red into the right corner is not going to be an option though. Nice snooker, very nice snooker, and ultimately a very nice chance now for Mcgill, because as he grabs an extension there for himself, has to reach quite far for the cue ball. And, well, taking a lot of time on this shot, I will tell you that, but it's not an easy one, of course. Has to either try and find the perfect room for pink or blue into the middle, or generate so much power on the cue ball that will get himself up to the top part of the table. But in the end, it's a chance wasted there from Mcgill, and it's all going to come to nothing, because John Higgins is going to be back at the table, and, well, have a perfect opportunity ahead of himself, with one red being basically in the right corner pocket. The colours, as I say, are not necessarily in the nice position, but I think that's going to be a benefit there to Higgins, because he doesn't need so many points to get himself a frame on the board here. So all about getting the first couple of colours in, and for now, accelerating the cue ball to the top part of the table, get himself a nice little free shot of either brown or yellow, you would think. In the end, he's over on for the brown, so he's going to be alright on the yellow. but I think the brown would have been better for him to try and get himself a perfect position on the next red. But I still think he'll manage to navigate his way through here, as he's got some sort of options available to his name right now. So all about injecting the pace yet again here on the cue ball, something that he had to do quite a lot of times already during the opening break. And does he use any spin at all here on the cue ball? I don't think he does. So he thinks there's a natural angle to try and send the cue ball into the reds, but needs to have some pace on that shot. And is it going to be perfect there for him? I think it will be, because he judged this one to an absolute perfection there. Gets himself into a perfect position on one of the reds into the left corner. And what comes next after it is going to be an interesting point for us to try and see. I think he'll probably go for the pink into the right corner there. So Higgins just seeing if that red is going to be potable there for him. I think in the end it probably will be, but it's all about trying to get on the colour after it. As I say, at least put one of those colours onto the blue spot, which I think is the only expensive spot that is available right now. And I don't know what on earth Higgins was trying to do, but he got himself into a massive amount of trouble, because all he had to do was stun the cue ball pretty much on the blue. If he didn't want to use the cushion, in the end he's all sorts of trouble right now, as he snookered himself massively. And Mcgill there pretty much just saying what on earth just happened there, because I don't think he would have expected to see himself come back into the frame so quickly after having that awful mistake into the right corner. And Higgins right now has to make sure he goes for the right shot there, and probably has to go for one of the ball colours. But which one is it going to be? I think he was aiming there for the brown in the end, and he missed all of them. So certainly going to be asked to put it back there. So Mcgill gets himself 12 points of foul shots there from Higgins. One of a snooker escape, well, two of a snooker escape now, and one of Higgins potting the cue ball at the start of the frame as well. The referee will take some time to make sure the cue ball position is exactly identical to the one it was previously. And for now, Higgins has to make sure he's got something in his mind in terms of the adjustments to the line that he had, and not necessarily too happy with the line that the referee is suggesting that the cue ball is on right now. So wants to see either a little bit less there or a little bit more of the path into the black ball cushion, which is going to be the first one. So 4 cushion escape, attempt number 2 there from Higgins. And as the cue ball accelerating nicely, I think he's gone for the green this time around, and he's going to miss this one. So once again, four foul points there given away to Mcgill, and Higgins has to do it all again here. So generate a lot of power on this shot, because this is 4 cushions, and every single one of them will slow the cue ball down and take some bit of pace of it. But also has to find the line to hit the green. And he's happy with this one. A lot quicker than the second one. And it's the third attempt now coming up from John Higgins. Play through the cue ball. And has to play this one with topspin, because he can't actually get to the lower part of the cue ball without touching the red. But this shot is going to be really good there for him. And in the end, it's third time lucky there for him. As 8 points is all, well, is the price that he's actually going to pay for the mistake and the misjudgment to get the cue ball onto the blue, into the left middle there. And Anthony Mcgill has got something else on his mind, as I think he'll try to roll the red into the corner, and it's a perfect shot there for him. Didn't feel like Higgins could have done a lot more in terms of the snooker escape, but it is Anthony Mcgill getting himself back in the frame, being only 29 points behind right now, and it's his first pot of the match here so far. And play through the cue ball right now onto the yellow, get himself nicely onto the lower parts of reds. And well, this could have been a frame over. Doesn't look like it is going to be in the foreseeable future now, with Mcgill still being so close to Higgins in terms of the points. And even though he's going to be struggling for some of the colour selection, he has got a couple of reds to try and go for right now. I think he has to go for a more difficult of the two, to either get himself on for the pink into the left corner or get himself lined up on one of those bold colours. And hopefully do that in a nice way there for him. In the end, decides to go for the yellow. That's going to be a little bit of a problem for him in terms of accumulating any sort of points, to make sure the gap in between him and his compatriot there is reducing by every single shot by some margin. Taking the cheapest colour right now. And once again lining himself up for a shot of the red into the left corner. So 24 points behind right now. Still 67 on the table. So it's not looking too bad, but of course it would have been a lot better had Mcgill had a chance to go for either blue or pink into the right or left corner. Doesn't seem to be the case for now though. And has to take something that is actually available to him. Play through the red into the corner. But wants the cue ball to run further than that, of course. And he's run himself out of position very, very quickly. And it's a break of just 7 points, taking the yellow twice there. And you add 3 more reds to that. It's probably the least amount you can actually accumulate on posting 3 reds. Only 7 points here. And that's not going to do the damage to Higgins. So Mcgill has to go for the yellow into its own pocket and has to trust himself and his cueing skills to get himself lined up once again for the red. And it's a decent shot there for him. And he's still just about fine on this red. But I don't think he's going to have any more cards like that left to his name. Because the next red has to be potted to the right corner. As opposed to the previous 3 that have all been potted into the left corner. And he takes this red on nicely. Once again, has to go back for the yellow. So taking all of the 3 reds out that he did is actually going to free up the blue and the pink into all 4 of the pockets there. So there's going to be a great boost there to Mcgill's chances. But until then, once again, as he rolls the yellow in nicely, has to take the red out, screw back for the pink there onto the left corner, get himself lined up onto the more difficult of the 2 reds. Don't think you'll need the black that is currently on the left hand cushion. If he does go for the pink and the blue on the 2 remaining reds, I think he'll be alright in terms of the points. And he still doesn't necessarily need a clearance, but needs to get somewhat close to that to get himself an opening frame on the board. And a great boost to his chances of becoming the first finalist here. Getting himself 20,000 of ranking points already. For a world number 57, it's not as low as you might think it is. And a chance to boost that number to up to 45,000 should he become victorious in this clash of the 2 players from Scotland. But now he's done everything pretty well so far. Has himself lined up on a selection of reds, either one into the left corner or the opposite one into the right corner there. But probably landed a little bit awkwardly on either one of them, because he decides to go for a red into the left corner, but has to generate some sort of power on it to get himself up for the colour, and he won't do that. So he decides that, you know, him getting 20 points on the board of a break and being only 10 points behind John Higgins is going to be enough there for him. So try to line up a snooker right now of the cue ball in behind the yellow. It's a nice shot there for him. So certainly I think a cushion first shot required right now by Higgins. And Mcgill also just bringing the black into play. Not too sure what that was all about. As he probably will need it if any of the 2 players will need it. But as I say, so far with him being only 10 points behind, it doesn't look like he actually is going to need to produce a total clearance. The pink is going to be good enough there for him. At least you would have thought so. But right now it is a massive shot for Higgins to try and send the cue ball into the red here. Hopefully catch it pretty much full ball there. That's a close cut to the middle. And is he going to go in behind the black? What a lucky shot this is by John Higgins. I mean, you're not going to get any luckier than that. It could have had a fluke drop in into the right middle instead. Potentially dropped in a massive snooker here on Mcgill. Think he can just about swerve and get enough of the edge of the red there, but limits his chances massively. Lucky boy, eh? I mean, talk about lucky. I think that is probably better than getting a fluke into the right middle, although it would have been on the blue there, so I think if that red dropped into the middle, it would have been frame over in terms of Higgins has a blue into the left middle, get himself lined up on the yellow. And before you know it, it's John Higgins who takes the opening frame here. For now, though, it is Mcgill that has to find himself escaping from a snooker. I certainly think he'll have to go for a cushion first shot because of the time they actually spent thinking about the shot that he has to take on right now. So let's see what's going to be the decision made for him. It certainly has to be right hand cushion first, you would have thought, and trying to catch red ball pretty much full ball there and accelerate it in towards the left hand cushion there, or potentially the ball cushion. So after taking more than 80 seconds on this shot, how's it looking for Mcgill? It's looking very nicely there for him, because I mean, I was thinking about catching it full ball, but Mcgill gone for a risky shot there, but in the end it worked out perfectly. When I say risky, he could have easily left a free ball there for Higgins. In the end, it's going to be a red of a safety shot played now by the well number 6. So roll this one in towards the left corner, you would have thought, and get the cue ball comfortably away in behind the sort of yellow pocket or the type of position that the cue ball is currently finding himself in. And that's exactly the shot that Higgins has gone for, but the cue ball is going to be lacking on pace here. But I think he actually doesn't want to have it too much space right now because he lined up a perfect snooker. Not too sure if that was the plan. With such a big area there of the blue, pink and black covering of the lower part of the table. All of them being on top of the pink spot. And especially the blue and pink being pretty much next to each other. We're going to see Anthony Mcgill right now trying to face a snooker of his own. And have a taste of his own medicine here. Something that he's managed to get 16 points earlier out of John Higgins. Some of the safety that he's playing have been absolutely brilliant, but this cue ball is pacey there. Doesn't want to leave a red on for John Higgins. And I think it's probably just about right. You can take this red on, but the angle on the cue ball is not going to be there for you. And you don't really want to leave this red over the corner pocket in case you miss it. I mean, it just looks like he is going to the shot into the right corner. I mean, this is a massive risk there for him. As I say, if he pots this one, surely he's frame over. But if he misses this one, probably going to be frame over as well there. But just in two different circumstances. And it's a brilliant pot in the end. Higgins mastered the diction on the table. In the end, it looks like that snooker has been absolutely crucial for us to get the winner of the opening frame. As John Higgins is just 3 pots away from doing that after getting the red in. So has got the black into the right middle. Very handy for him. Notcher angle on the yellow. And then it's a straightforward clearance there for him. The clearance that he doesn't even need that. But what a mistake that is. I mean, it's not like he almost missed the blue into the black, into the right middle. But because he only managed to get this one in barely, the angle he had on this cue ball ascended into the ball colours really heavily and had to do it with a little pace there. In the end, the cue ball had so much acceleration. It's gone into the brown and has landed up alongside the yellow. So, I mean, once again, you could try and take this yellow on, especially if you're John Higgins. But the cue ball has to travel such a long distance to get himself for the green. I mean, let's see if he is going to take this one on. He will. How's the cue ball position going to be? He's going to be close to the middle. He's going to be very close to the middle. And he's going to drop this one in. So all of a sudden, this has gone on its head there. Because it really is. I mean, I don't know what on earth he's doing right now. Because he should have never gone for the black the way he did. And right now, he's got himself into a massive spot of trouble. The yellow will be respotted, of course. And all of a sudden, it's Anthony Mcgill has got a straightforward chance of a clearance. What a blunder. I mean, what a mistake that is. as I say, that black was one of the easiest blacks you're ever going to see into the right middle. And he's managed to play it with so much angle on the cue ball that it wasn't even the pace that he played the shot in. It was just the angle he sent the cue ball into the brown, got himself into a really awkward situation on the yellow. And before you know it, did manage to get the yellow in, but the cue ball was out of control, got himself into a left middle. And as I say, apart from the blue and the pink being so close to each other, it is a straightforward clearance attempt for Anthony Mcgill here. Being 9 points behind, so you'll need... I think you'll need the pink is going to be the frame ball for him. I think it probably will be. So 49, no, you'll need the total clearance here. So not going to matter really, because if he gets himself onto the pink, he's going to be in an easy position to get himself on the black as well. So just has a look at the scoreboard. Frame time has only reached half an hour here. And, well, I mean, it will be a massive shock if from here he doesn't make a scoreline of 1 frame to 0. He's gone for the pink in towards the right middle. So the pink to make him 6 points clear there of Higgins. Still 7 on the table, so still needs to get some cue action on the black here. And wonderful stroke there into the right middle. And this time it's a frame ball for Anthony Mcgill to get himself an early frame on the board. And it would feel like a massive steal and potentially a massive momentum shift already. And it is going to be the opening frame to Anthony Mcgill here. Gets himself a break of 27 points. And in the end also gets himself with the opening frame here. We are into the best of 11 frame format. And I don't think John Higgins is going to be too frustrated about that right now. Because it's a massive mistake that he found himself with. And he found himself with losing the opening frame. It is Anthony Mcgill 1, John Higgins 0. And it is an absolute wonder. And should be GG's. It certainly is now. But let's see what the reaction is going to be from John Higgins. As I say, could have played on numerous occasions and numerous shots a lot better in the opening frame. But, you know, similar sort of situation that he found himself against Lee Heathcote. Took a long time for the opening frame to end. But in the end, it didn't stop Higgins from having a wonderful and a dominant performance in the end, but right now we're into the semi-final stage and you can't really afford to be doing stuff like that. And, well, let's see what the reaction is going to be from Anthony Mcgill and John Higgins when the frame number 2 will get underway. But now the thing that you can try to talk about is going to be the head-to-head of the two. I think it is Higgins leading that head-to-head by 5 wins to 3 in favour of him. And it's been a while since the two of them actually met. It was 2023 World Open. As well, it's a massive match this is for Anthony Mcgill, because not only it will make him that head-to-head a lot more appealing to him, but also it will make him his first final since 4 years ago that he managed to reach of a ranking event, reaching the first semi-final in 3.5 years. And I mean, who remembers the brilliant Kyle Wilson Anthony Mcgill semi-final there of a World Championship in 2020? That was an absolute beauty. And I needed Mcgill frame 1. Let's go. Well, I mean, fair play, because he was so close to losing that one. But in the end he got it, so fair play for that. Anthony Mcgill will now come back for frame number 2 now to get himself underway here with a break-off shot. And only a couple of moments away from us getting underway here. And hopefully we are going to be treated with a wonderful frame. First one has gone just about 30-minute mark. Let's see if the second one is going to follow the example. For now, it's a break-off shot that we've seen Mitchell Mann and Lou Heathcote make the mess of yesterday. And Anthony Mcgill, to be fair to him, not necessarily having a brilliant start there to himself. Best great game what that was. I mean, certainly was brilliant. John almost always starts losing their wins here. We read this perfectly so far. I think it is something that him and Williams has got in common. I did notice this one with Williams managing to lose the opening 2 frames to both marks, Selby and Allen, as Higgins once again has got an absolute dreadful safety shot, catches the red way too thin there and gives away a chance to Mcgill to take on. It's not even a long shot, it probably counts as a mid-range shot right now, into the right corner. And yeah, the thing about Williams and Higgins is both of them start to lose the opening couple of frames, but you can't really afford to do that with such a short format. I know it's best of 7, best of 9, and right now you could say we're best of 11, but it's still, when you're up against the world number 57, as Mcgill has got a brilliant shot of the red, but I don't think he'll be too happy with the way the cue ball is finished, being pretty straight on the cube on the blue now, and he can try and go for the pink in towards the right corner, but I don't think they'll do him any good either. So brown or green to go into the green pocket here. Play with a lot of topspin on the cue ball. Use the ball cushion to give him a little bit of a parachute in towards the lower part of it. And it's a decent shot there from Mcgill. Probably the best he actually could have found himself with. And it's all about taking this red on into the left corner. The black is going to be waiting there for him. It's a lot better, this position, in terms of the way the colours are placed. Are they down to 1 table now, please? Yes, absolutely. So, as usual, we're now down to 1 table format. The quarterfinal has seen us down to 2 tables. And a standard practice, really. We're now down to a single table format here at Cheltenham Century Hall. And the same table that the final is going to be played in. WSD released an official statement that it's not going to be recloth, and unless something bizarre happens, this is the table that is going to be here tomorrow for the final. And for now, though, it is 12 points for Anthony Mcgill. Once again, gets the black into the left corner, but the bad news there for him is the black had to go somewhere around, well, to go on another spot of the colour higher up the table, and to choose the brown spot for that, referee. So that was the piece of bad news. The good news is, of course, it still has pink and blue to try and take advantage of. Surely has to, well, I think a perfect situation and a perfect scenario for him right now is take this red that was blocking the black from going on his spot, then trying to pot the pink, and because the pink spot is not available, the referee will be forced to put the pink back on the black spot, and all of a sudden, you'll be in with a perfect chance to just be playing in and around the black spot, just having pink on that. It's got a nice little plant into the right middle as well. And 19 points right now is on the cards for Mcgill. As he takes this pink into the middle. Once again, brilliant cue action. Think so, yeah, certainly. So, as I say, maybe you had ads rolling in or something. I did mention that it is down to a single table format in the semi-final, same in the final, and the quarter-final was the first time that we actually had 2 tables alongside each other, and all the lower stages of the tournament were done in 4 tables being played alongside each other, so just a normal practical thing for the WSD to do. But this could start to be a little bit of a concern there for Higgins, because he lost the opening frame under the circumstances that he probably should have never lost it under. And now Mcgill has got 26 points on the board, all of them coming on the single break. Still 3 more reds to go really nicely into the left corner, you would have thought, with him lining himself up for the 1. Although he did go for the shot into the right corner there. Busy table fixtures last time, big job, yeah. I mean, certainly, especially with the way the semi-final finished. You know, it would have been quite close to midnight at the time that actually happened. And, well, hopefully, we're going to see that they did a great job there. No complaints so far from either Mcgill or Higgins, but we're still in the early stages of the semi-final. Let's see if that will continue. And for now, Mcgill doing everything he can and not being fazed by the pressure as you would expect. He's been here before. It's been a while, but he certainly knows how to do that. And even progress himself into a ranking event final, something that he's managed to do once in his career. But yet, to win a ranking event title there for him. Ever since, well, the majority and the peak of career for Mcgill was in the 2020 season. I think he was as high as number 12 in the world at that time, and he was brilliant. He was actually higher than the likes of Mark Selby, Sean Murphy, and Kyle Wilson at that time. And all of a sudden, a massive switch in form has brought himself into the top 64, which probably is going to be the good news for him. He's going to get a massive jump if he gets himself into the final. 20,000 ranking points is going to be significant for him, but not quite as significant as getting 45,000 of those. And you never know, having a chance to battle for the title and a price check of £100,000 there. But now, after taking so long on this red to take it on into the left corner, goes for the blue into the right middle here. So has to just check on how the plant is doing into either left or right corner. Don't think he'll go for the plant that the camera was showing there into the right corner. So I think it's left corner or nothing there for him. And still no real chance and no real clue if he is going to go and send the cue ball into the reds. I think the answer is no now. I mean, I thought the answer was no now because I've seen him have so much traction on the cue. And certainly sending the cue ball with a lot of power into the reds, I thought. The end he's gone for the plant that I said was going to be a risky shot for him to try and take on. He needs to make a massive adjustment here, with the reds being nowhere near the pocket, and has to make this one stick there. And missed it. As I did say it, I don't know why he's going for the shot like that. He had a chance, he had a really good chance to send the cue ball into the bunch of reds there. He didn't want to do that. And in the end, it's John Higgins back at the table here. 45 points is not going to do it for Anthony Mcgill. And the same red that he's just missed, Higgins will certainly try and make sure he doesn't miss this time around. And it could have been a massive banker for a 2-0 lead there. All of a sudden, if Higgins manages to get this red in, he'll be in with a chance himself. Crazy, should have opened up for the blue. Exactly, this is what I'm saying. He had a perfect angle on the blue to try and get himself into the reds. And I understand if he was trying to aim himself for a plant that was like impossible to miss. But it had two cliches that make you never go for the plants in your life. A, there was a lot of distance in between the reds. And B, they were going nowhere near the pocket. And before you know it, I mean, Higgins literally is probably taking a little bit of a monkey out of Mcgill at this stage. Because literally, with the first time, he's gone into the blue and he's spread the reds out perfectly. I mean, there's not one bad red right now. And it's all about if he actually finished up on one here. We're really unlucky if he didn't. I think he's got a red into the left corner. And as I say, if he makes this one stick, he's got a pink into the same corner. And from there, it should be a straightforward clearance there. This is what I'm saying. Like, he's literally done it from the first time of asking, when Mcgill was hesitating to do it after having 45 points advantage. Like, if you're going to go for the plant, you always risk of missing the red and leaving the same red away, which is what he did. If you go into the reds, unless you drop a red alongside the blue, you're always going to have a short selection of sort of say, well, I didn't land on the red, so I can just play a safety shot there and not risk anything. So really weird there from Mcgill. And well, it's a low IQ shot, is what I'd call it. Right now, he gets on 13 points. Has to go for a red and send the cue ball into the top part of the table. I mean, the black is going to be waiting there for him. The pink has gone back on his spot, so the black spot once again is gone vacant there. 110th people voted who will win this match. 75% have gone for Higgins. 25% have gone for Anthony Mcgill. I think that's fair, especially with Mcgill taking the opening frame and potentially being on the charge for frame number 2 as well. Higgins wants the cue ball to slow down, and he's going to be just fine on his blue. gets the top part of it. And just going to be a little bit concerned by the fact that the cue ball is going to be very close to the right hand cushion here. So play this one with a lot of topspin and a lot of power, and all of a sudden you're going to get yourself lined up perfectly into one of those reds into the right corner. So in terms of the clearance possibility for Higgins, I think the only red and the only problem is going to be a red into the left middle, because it's quite close to the right hand cushion. You can't really take this shot along the cushion. It gives you the Matthew Selt missing the frame ball and the match ball vibes against Dylan Emery. And you have to either try to counter the cue ball into that red or try and land it in behind it for the shot into the middle. I think there's certainly enough space there for you to try and do that. Higgins right now finds himself 25 points behind Anthony Mcgill here. And rolls the pink in nicely, just about scuffs the front job. He's alright. And right now, he's in the perfect situation of the cue ball being right in amongst the reds. No real issue with him trying to get on the pink anyway. And so doesn't need the black up until the last point. And an absolute cliffhanger of the second frame. I think this one has gone a lot quicker. Higgins loves these coming back to clear up. Best player, absolutely. I mean, comeback Higgins, and this is why, I will say that, this is why he's so good in deciders. Because the amount of times you'll have a player get 30 or 40 points in the decider, and then you've got either a miss or just a safety battle, and then Higgins will come back to the table, and you think this is way too many points for him. The pressure will kick in at some point, but it just doesn't there for him. And he'll go and produce a break of 65 and win another decider. I mean, he managed to win 2 of those already in this tournament alone against Jack Lisowski and Mark Davis. Could have had to face one against Jounsington, but in the end making the most out of things in frame number 6. Renowned for doing it, I mean, absolutely. But let's see if he's going to do it one more time here, because he is going to go for the more difficult of the reds to try and take it on into the right corner. The type of shot that I said he wants to avoid, really. Not perfect on the cue ball either. This is not an easy shot for him to try and take on. And has to just drop this one in and line himself up for a shot of the pink into the middle. But yeah, he takes so much time on these shots, and it's never a good sign there for whichever type of player you are. Can't afford to miss it, because that will mean Anthony Mcgill have a gap of 2 frames to nil once again. Gets down for the shot 3 times there, Higgins, and goes back up on the 3rd time as well. So he's going to take this one on. As I say, it's a massive shot there, not just for this frame, but for the match in its entirety. He needs to make this one stick, and does. Perfect. And the fact that he's played with power as well is going to be an absolute bonus, as long as he's landed pretty straight on this pink. And as we have a replay, yeah, played with power, played with care, and played it with real confidence as well. Especially after, as I say, having 3 times that he hesitated on the red previously. And right now, he should turn into a straightforward clearance attempt. So being 2 points clear right now of Anthony Mcgill, producing the highest break of the match here. Still yet to witness the first 50-plus break. But surely Higgins is just a couple of shots from doing that. I think he's got a nice little position to go for this red. Take the black out of the brown spot. Put it back to where it belongs. And just try and navigate through the brown and the green area. Which is... the brown has gone a little bit awkwardly towards the green. I think very much compromised by the fact that the black has taken its spot currently. And... still, as I say, the toughest part of the work certainly be done there by Higgins. So all about getting on this blue with the wrong side of it this time around. To get himself up for the ball colours. And just roll the blue in. No pace on the cue ball at all. And gets himself nicely with the first 50-plus break here. So 27 points now remaining on the table. And I think he can just about navigate the cue ball through this brown. Line himself up for a shot of the green. May have to use an extension for that though. And as long as he can see enough of the green, he's going to be perfect on this shot. And 10 points clear, so he needs green, brown and blue to get himself a 1 frame on the board and a massive frame as well. Very big difference in between going 2-0 down to someone like Anthony Mcgill and having it 1 frame all. But once again, Higgins just has a little bit of a chalk up until he gets the work done. And well, with him doing all the hard work, now run himself out of position on this brown. Can't really afford to take a double here because he needs the blue on top of this brown. Has to go for a safety shot. How good is it? It's probably just about fine there for him, as long as there's not a gap in between the blue and the pink here, which the referee had a good look at. The Mcgill will now do the same thing. I think he will be a cushion first shot for Mcgill, but as I said, the second time in the 2 frames, the Higgins was going into a straightforward clearance and he messed it up there. So, of course, for now, hasn't given him the outcome that the opening frame has. But Anthony Mcgill has to make sure that he gets as little power on the cue ball as possible. Just about reach the brown and send it onto the left-hand cushion. They'll very much do the job for him very nicely indeed. So he decided to go for 2 cushions escape there and play the cue ball into the ball cushion and just ricochet into the brown on his way back. And he's actually played an absolute beauty of a shot yet again here. And this is turned into an absolute nightmare for John Higgins because he now has a snooker of his own. But with the brown being so far away from any of the cushions, this is a massive chance for Anthony Mcgill to get himself a 2nd frame on the board as well. Because this is not an easy situation for Higgins to try and get himself out of. So play into the brown here of the 2 cushions. I think he'll be left-hand cushion first, then the black ball cushion, and then just cannon into the brown to send it in towards the right cushion. So pretty much a reverse shot there from the one that Mcgill had to play, but Higgins decides to go for a 1 cushion escape. This is risky, and he needs to make sure that he catches this one full ball. He's missed it, and he's going to give away a free ball. He's going to give away a ball in hand there for Mcgill. So I think he'll have a look there, but I don't think he'll go for the shot right now, Mcgill. And straight away, not even hesitating, Mcgill saying that, put it back please. Oh no, what a sausage. I mean, it's not over yet, but it's very much looking like a deja vu of the opening frame. Higgins being in complete control, getting all the hard work done. That time he messed around with playing the black with the wrong side of it, barely dropped it into the middle, run himself out of position on the yellow. And this time had a straightforward shot from the green onto the brown. And in the end, it's 8 points given away now to Anthony Mcgill here. And all of a sudden, the brown is no longer a frame ball for Higgins. And Mcgill is still sat in his chair, not even looking at potential ball in hand chance for him. And just trying to see Higgins and trying to adjust the trajectory of the cue ball, but doesn't seem to be helping him so far. Once again, goes for the same line, and just the minor adjustments there made to him. Hopefully we'll make it on the 3rd time of asking. Yes, he will. Where's the brown going to finish though? It's going to finish quite close to an attacking chance there for Mcgill onto the right middle. So do you take this shot on? It's the type of shots that he has to make in if he goes for them. But also, it's a difference between being a runner-up and a winner and a semi-finalist, or being potentially in the final there for Mcgill. So all or nothing shot. All the colours are available on the table, but you have to feel like you have to take this on, especially with Higgins. You know, giving him this chance. He should have been 1 frame each there. Mcgill has to go for it surely, and he won't go for it. And I think that was the wrong decision there for him, because it clearly thought there was a clear chance for him to line up another snooker there on Higgins. But as John can see enough, and pretty much the entirety of the brown, it has turned into a safety advantage for John Higgins all of a sudden. So I think it was a waste of a chance for Mcgill. Of course, I understand why he's done it. He's 1 frame ahead there, and he still thinks that he can get the better of John Higgins in the safety battle. And for now, it's a brilliant shot from Higgins. Gets both of the colours, in terms of the brown and the cue ball, on the cushion. Brown onto the black ball cushion and the white in towards the right hand cushion of the table. Right alongside the baulk line and pretty much diagonally of each other. It's going to be awkward for Mcgill to try and play. And in the end, he wants the brown to stick to the cushion. He won't do that. So Higgins once again gets himself into a little bit of a safety battle. Something that he should have been well clear of in this opening 2 frames, really. But managed to lose the opening frame. And so far, it's going exactly with the same script in frame number 2 here. Higgins, well, not necessarily dominating the frame. You know, Mcgill had an early chance, but got himself into a nice little situation of a clearance attempt. And messed up the shot from the green onto the brown here. And Mcgill, once again, plays a decent safety shot there. And Higgins only can spread out their colours onto the ball cushion. So very much being close to the baulk line right now. Mcgill has got full control of this shot to him. And it's all about trying to get so much power on the cue ball and just trying to accelerate it in towards the available area. But is that going to be available for him? And right now it's a decent line there from the cue ball, but wants you to slow down. And has he found the gap there for Mcgill? It will be really unfortunate. And I think it's a decent attempt there for him. Because I don't think John Higgins can do anything with the brown in terms of trying to pot it into the green pocket. But let's see. Doesn't want to see this brown, of course, because that will give a lot of room for Higgins to try and exploit. And well, he needs to make sure he gets this one right if he goes for this brown. He goes for the cushion first shot there. And in the end, it's a shot that is going to separate the cue ball and the brown yet again, but it's not going to be a massive difference there for him. So Mcgill just has to play into the brown here and get himself somewhat safe into the area. It's one of those straightforward shots that you just have to play the cue ball with a little bit of topspin, send it onto the black ball cushion and send the brown on towards the ball cushion area. Nicely played there from Mcgill. And Higgins right now has got himself on the receiving end of things here. So all about trying to decelerate the cue ball. Well, a little bit of pace there on himself, but also just try and get a lot of traction on the cue ball and get the brown into the lower part of the table here. I think that's going to be available, but he wants to avoid the double kiss, and he hasn't avoided the double kiss there. I said it the latest second there, but he got away with that. He could have easily left the brown in towards the yellow pocket. Instead, Mcgill's not going to have too much available to his name. And he's now 5 points in behind right now. So all about trying to get the safety, the one that counts. Such a big area there to try and line the cue ball in behind the pink, the black or the blue there, all being quite close to each other, forming a triangle of some sort. And it's a massive shot for Mcgill. Whatever he does, he needs to make sure the brown is going to be safe. And decent line there. In the end, the brown is going to be safe, but the cue ball is going to have way too much traction there. And Higgins has to send the cue ball back down the table there. And decelerating yet again with a lot of chance for him to get the cue ball in behind the black this time around, it being the closest to the baulk line. But we are turning into a little bit of a safety battle every single time into one of the deciding parts of the frame. And yet again, Higgins just not being clinical with those safety shots. Gives away another chance and another opportunity to Mcgill to try and make the most out of the chance that presents to himself. So play through the cue ball right now, send it into the brown. Potentially go for a double there. Didn't want to do that, and in the end, has he given a shot away to Higgins? It will be a massive blunder there for Mcgill this time around. And let's see, frame time is about to reach 30 minutes as well here. So after both of those opening frames, I've actually had a quick start to them. Had to end in the fashion of safety play. But could these be about to end with Higgins only needing the brown and the blue to get himself over the line in terms of the frame ball? And surely he's going to put all the struggles behind him if he gets this brown in. Yes, he will. How's the cue ball going to be on the blue? And it's going to be perfect there for him. So finally, you would think that it is going to be a little bit of John Higgins' show, as the crowd will be on their feet and applauding the brilliance of John Higgins to, in the end, get himself a frame on the board, surely. Now being 14 points clear, so only a single point in between Mcgill and being able to go for a respot here. But Higgins surely will just pop this pink nicely into the corner, make sure there's not going to be messing around this time around, and it will be. John Higgins 1, Anthony Mcgill 1. A frame each after pretty much an hour of play there. But John Higgins gets away with that mistake. Has to be more clinical in terms of his play. But that was a lot better in the end. Gets himself over the line. And he's now a frame each. So all is well that ends well there for Higgins. And thank you very much for everyone who's watching. We've got 162 people watching now. So feel free to hit the like on the stream. And subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And this is better from Higgins, because he needed to get this frame on the board. You know, when you're not playing well, the best thing for you to try and do is actually to win those sort of frames. And certainly he's GG's right now, because it's all about John Higgins trying to get himself on the board here. And he's still going to be a massive favourite going into this semi-final. But until then, you have to say anything is possible there for him. And Anthony Mcgill should have done better in terms of the chances that actually he had ahead of himself. You know, he could have gone for the brown that I was talking about into the right middle. He only decided to play a safety shot there. Not too sure that was the right shot for him to try and go for. And in the end had to pay the price for it. And right now it is John Higgins 1, Anthony Mcgill 1. A frame each and nothing to separate the two players. As we now go into the frame number 3. Still not over 50% there until the first mini session is going to be over. With that being 4 frames played, 15 minutes break, and then we'll be back for the action to resume there between the two players. As I say, we've got a Scottish derby and then we've got an English derby in the evening in between Murphy and Selby. And for now, a little bit of a delay as the referee has gone to clean something. I think it was the cue ball that he was actually trying to clean. And a lovely trophy there. We'll be waiting for someone to take on at the end of tomorrow's final. Is he going to be Mark Selby for the second year in a row? Is it going to be Sean Murphy? Is it going to be one of those two players? Now, what frame each, and best of 9 now. This turns into for a spot in the final to face either Sean Murphy or Mark Selby. This time is John Higgins with a break-off shot. And so far, of course, with a breakaway, managed to lose the frame. Let's see if that's going to be the tendency here again. But as I say, in terms of the Higgins performance, he was struggling against Luke Heathcote in the opening stages of the match. Managed to overcome all those issues and get himself away nicely into a 5-2 win over the world number 88. But for now, it's Mcgill with the first chance, as the break-up wasn't perfect there from Higgins. And he leaves the red off into the left corner. Mcgill misses this one, and probably the same red will be attempted there by Higgins. The cue ball is not going to be underneath the yellow, which is going to be a huge boost there for him. And Higgins has to find himself going back for this red into the left corner. All about getting himself lined up for the colour after this one. And once again turns into a little bit of a mid-range shot, this one. And just roll this one in. No real power needed. Either try and get around the black there, or try and get the cue ball into the pack of reds. But he's played this one with power. I said there was no need for the power. He obviously thought that he couldn't actually get himself on the black. In the end, Mcgill will have a straightforward opener. So one chance wasted each. And Mcgill certainly going to make a little bit more of the second chance that presents to himself into the left middle. So far, whoever got the first chance in either one of the opening frames has gone on to lose the frame as well there. And Mcgill will try and take the blue back to his spot. Not literally, I mean, he's not allowed to carry the ball there, but he'll try and put it into the left middle, restore it back on exactly where it was previously, and get himself lined up on either one of the reds to either left or right corner there. I think he has to go for the one into the left corner because there's got a nicer angle on the cue ball. Try and get around the black there. Get himself lined up for a shot into the left corner this time around. And when you are in and around the black spot, the frame can go very, very quickly there. But this is a horrible miss there from Mcgill. He's missed this rest shot by an absolute mile. I mean, it probably felt like he wasn't in Cheltenham when he was playing the shot. He was in London and missed that. Well, I mean, how on earth do you miss this shot by so much of a distance? It was a straightforward rest shot there. There was barely any distance in between the red and the pocket. And also the cue ball was very close. So, I don't know why missed that one by such a margin. Nowhere near landing himself on the black. And gives away a shot into the left middle for Higgins. Is he going to take this one? Yes, he is. I mean, it's a brilliant shot there from Higgins. I felt like that was going to drift wide of the pocket, but he didn't. Big frame. I mean, it's a big start to the big frame. I still think it's a big frame only if Higgins loses it. Because... no, sorry. I mean, the other way around. I think it's a big frame if John Higgins goes on to win it. I still think if it's a 2-1 of a lead for Mcgill, then it's certainly something that John Higgins can still try and overcome. But from Anthony Mcgill, he should do better than that. Only managing to have 6 points on the board. And John Higgins, he's away right now with a perfect chance and full control of the position. That could have been Anthony Mcgill's for the taking. Instead, it's going to be another man from Scotland, the highest seed left out in the tournament. Probably he's the favourite for the entire tournament right now, especially if you look at the paper. No disrespect to Anthony Mcgill, but he's probably the easiest of the opposition of the likes of Sean Murphy and Mark Selby in the semi-finals. And Higgins being the highest seed left out in the tournament after the likes of Mark Williams, Judd Trump, Karen Wilson and Neil Robertson all being eliminated very early into the stages. And Mark Williams had to come short yesterday in his clash. Not a good shot from Mcgill. Dreadful shot there if you ask me. And that has resulted in 24 points scored by Higgins already and counting. And here comes Big John. I mean, it certainly does right now. Because he's got at least 3 more reds available to his name. And on top of that, if he just tries to take this one, red by red, and takes those 3 with 3 blacks there, he'll be 42 points clear. With something around 7 reds still on the table. Try and go into the blue. And the bunch of reds has actually positioned itself in a perfect manner for a little bit of a cannon from the blue. You need your John Century frame number 3. I mean, you need a lot of things, I will tell you that. But he's looking decent for a century break. The bad news that I will give you is so far the best of the break that we've seen is 58 points from Higgins and 45 from Mcgill. But as I say, he's looking good there for him at this moment in time. He's on a break of 32 points right now and counting. But of course, any mistake right now would mean that it's not going to be a century there for him. Big ask, needs a good split. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. I think it probably is going to be, if he wins this match, if he wins this frame in this visit to the table, he will have a decent shot at the century break, but nothing is guaranteed at this stage. And, I mean, he's gone into the reds nicely. He's warming up. He is warming up. But he's got a massive shot of warm-up right now to get himself through this blue into the green pocket. So it's a massive ask, but as I say, if he makes this one stick, the century is very much possible there for him. So the cue ball is going to have to go deep. Hopefully he's ready. As I say, for me, it all comes down to this shot, getting himself nicely on the red. The black is available. The blue will be back on his spot. And it's going to have all the tools ahead of himself. And the blue is in. So the first part of the equation is complete for you. And he's now 38 points into this break. So still missing 62 from that magic number of 100 there. And of course a massive shout out to Neil Robertson, which I forgot to give yesterday. He becomes the first player in the history of snooker to become the player that has 100 breaks of exactly 100 points scored. Something that neither Ronnie O'Sullivan, Judd Trump or Colin Wilson achieved beforehand. And John Higgins as well. He's not in that equation just yet. But he could be in for another century break here potentially. As I say, after that split, there's absolutely nothing to separate him in between winning this frame. And therefore, with no reds being on the cushion, and only a small bunch of them, he's going to be underneath the pink there. That's a very nice split. This is what I'm saying. Had to make sure he got the blue in. And he did manage to do that. So right now on the break of 47 points. So just go deep into the cue ball once again here. Get himself lined up on one of the reds, either left, middle, or right corner. He's got so many reds to try and choose from right now. And I mean, the fact that he can actually take those out, I'm going to say this is probably going to be frame over. So early to call it. 83 points still on the table. But as I say, it's one of the best positions you're ever going to see on a snooker table. And when you've got John Higgins on the board, you will be, at this stage, you'll be a massive disappointment if it's not a century break. I will tell you that, Gringo. Because 55 points in already. So the black for the highest break of the match by 3 points there. 4 points, I should say. Get himself once again heavily into the cue ball. Lines up for a red into the right middle. And he doesn't have to use the pink at any stage during this break. But he decided to go the other way around. And therefore, he's found himself in a little bit of a more difficult shot to try and take on. Still has a couple of reds to choose from. Red into the left middle. Red into the right middle. Or I think he can try and go for the red into the yellow pocket. All three of those are more than possible. But I think he would have liked to avoid that shot selection. Go for the red into the yellow pocket here. So just take one more piece of the jigsaw out of the way. And is this one going to drop? No, it's not. So it is a waste of a chance there from Higgins. Wow, it is a very rare mistake from John Higgins to run himself out of position like that. It's not going to be a century frame, I'm afraid. And is it going to be Anthony Mcgill's frame for the taking? Because the red that John Higgins has just missed has gone very close to the green pocket. Mcgill can have this brilliant position to himself now, and he's still got more than enough points to get himself back in the equation for this frame. Starts off nicely there. 55 points in behind Higgins right now. So can go for the yellow right now. And try and send the cue ball back down the table. Have a couple of reds available to him. Still, I think he can afford to be losing some sort of points right now. At this stage of the frame. He's got 55 points of a gap after this yellow. And he's got 67 points on the table. So can't lose too many of those. But he can certainly try and take the yellow out of the table for a couple of occasions. And it's a nice shot there on the cue ball. Being back down the table. So 53 is the gap in between. 67 still on the table with 5 reds being in available play. John Higgins is still far from his best. I don't think we've seen this John Higgins yesterday, especially in the later stages against Lee Heathcote. So he has to find some sort of form that has got him into this semi-final to take it a step forward and book himself for one more ranking event final. The stage that he's been into for the majority of his career. But is that going to be a difficult task for him to try and do it? Because it is Anthony Mcgill right now that is going to be the favourite for this frame. No matter the points difference. If he takes all these reds with the blacks there. All the colours are on position. The reds are certainly not going to be a problem there for him. All about the next 8 shots or so. And then he'll get himself into a nice little 6 colour clearance situation. And 44 points he's behind right now. So the blue to go into the right middle. Play through the cue ball. Get himself lined up nicely into the cannon of reds if he wants one. In the end, he can always just take them out one by one. And it looks like he will go for just trying to take those out as they come at him. And the first one will go into the right corner. Nice shot there for him. So, I mean, I said it at the start. I don't know what on earth Higgins was thinking trying to play for that shot into the yellow pocket anyway. He missed it by some margin. And Mcgill right now has got a brilliant chance of himself. And what a mistake that is. I mean, I was just talking about the mistake that Higgins managed to produce. And he will be the luckiest man on planet Earth right now. Mcgill has just missed the black off the spot into the right corner. This has been a semi-final of blunders. But can John Higgins put it past him? As long as he gets this red into the left middle, he'll be nicely away into the fourth frame with a 2-1 lead. Just wants to roll this one in, get himself lined up potentially for one of the colours. The brown is going to be available there for him, and he is going to roll this red in. So now 39 points clear, 35 on the table. So one snooker needed to tie there for Mcgill. And what a massive waste of a chance. I thought it was a waste from Higgins previously, but I mean, to miss the black of the spot like that there from Mcgill is absolutely unforgivable. And Higgins right now finds himself 8 points safe, so 2 sneakers needed there for Mcgill to tie. If the red stays out there on the table, probably has to go for this because it's only one free ball in between Mcgill and actually trying to do that. And Higgins goes for a clever shot, lands a snooker on Mcgill, and are we going to see him back there? No, we're not, and it is going to be a frame to John Higgins. So it was a scrappy frame, but in the end, it's the result that counts, and it is the result that John Higgins would have been anticipating after a loss in the opening frame. He now leads Anthony Mcgill by 2 frames to 1, winning 2 of those frames on the bounce, and getting himself in, a guaranteed position that he's not going to be losing going into the second mini session there. And still could go with a very healthy lead into the intermission break of 15 minutes time. Should he be victorious in frame number 4 and win 3 frames on the bounce? Well, now we're going to wait and see how that happens. As Anthony Mcgill will be very disappointed with himself, missing a black off the spot like that, throwing a frame win that was there for him. John Higgins managed to capitalize on that in the end. And got the break of 8 points, which was all that he actually needed to get himself ahead by so much of a margin for Anthony Mcgill that he didn't even bother to come back to the table despite him facing only 2 snookers or so. And 4th frame will be underway very shortly. It is now a must-win frame for Mcgill. Otherwise, John Higgins will probably be starting to run away with this match. I forgot if I actually mentioned into it, but I did say that it was going to be a score prediction for me. John Higgins 6, Anthony Mcgill 3 there. So far looking nicely for that. You know, if you take the opening 3 frames the way I've gone, and the remaining 6 are going to go the same way, it is going to be the exact scoreline of a 6-3 win there to Higgins. But he's got a lot of work to do until then. And you never know, he could still try and make that a more comfortable win of a scoreline. 6-1 and 6-2 still on the cards for him as well. But for now, he manages to end the streak of a break, loses the frame. The opening 2 is gone under this scenario. And this time it's Anthony Mcgill to the break off. Ahead of the intermission break. The last frame of the first mini session. And as I repeat myself, it is a must-win frame for Mcgill. He can't afford to be going 3-1 down to the player like John Higgins, because you will smell blood and you'll go for the finish there as soon as we return from that break. So it starts off with a decent break off there, Mcgill, and leaves a potential plant there for Higgins, but so much distance in between the reds. could try and use this one in the next couple of shots to send the cue ball up the table and just hope that neither of those reds will stick over the corner pocket. And for now, Higgins once again goes with a lot of power on the cue ball and gets it in behind the yellow and gets it lined up nicely on the black ball cushion. So the reds has gone safe there, and the cue ball has also gone into the bulk area in behind the yellow here. So this plan that I was talking about is still available for Mcgill, but he doesn't want to take any risks on, you would think, especially being 2-1 down already. And just has to go carefully into the bunch of reds, but carefully wasn't necessarily the adverb that I would use if I was to describe the shot that Mcgill just played there, because he's left the red over the left corner for John Higgins to try and take advantage of. The black is going to be there waiting for him. And once again, a mistake from Mcgill so early into the frame to give a chance away to Higgins. Let's see if he's going to take this one though. The wizard from Wishaw. Roll this one in nicely. Get yourself lined up for the black. Exactly what he's done there. So once again, for the third time out of the opening 4 frames, it's going to be the opening chance that goes the way of John Higgins here. The problem is, he didn't manage to take 2 of the previous ones and make it a frame-winning visit to the table there. Can he make this one third time lucky? And has to play a lot of power into the black there, but what a shot this is. Such a seamless, and didn't even have to go into the reds just to get himself a perfect opportunity to play this red into the left corner. And so many reds to try and choose from. As I say, by far the perfect and the best opportunity that we've seen in the opening 4 frames here. John Higgins just has to make sure he doesn't give this opportunity away there, because should he miss one of those reds or blacks there, Mcgill will once again be in charge of the position that John Higgins didn't manage to make full advantage of. But now he gets the second red into the left corner. We'll go for the black in the opposite side of the table and send it towards the right corner now. Send the cue ball higher up the table for one of those reds to get himself lined up with a really nice situation, and attempt to try and play either one of those 2. So I think he'll go for the red into the left corner, and you're just looking to see if he can actually get through to that red, or does he have to go for a different shot selection there? And don't think he's going to be alright with that. So he's going to have to switch the run of play and go for the red into the right corner of the table. Roll the cue ball up for the black there and get himself lined up really nicely on the black position. But I mean, this does not get any better for John Higgins. And mistake after mistake after mistake, and each of those has been worse than the previous one. This red is one of the easiest ones I've seen John Higgins miss in my life. Don't even talk about the black that he's missed and the cannon into the brown. What on earth are you doing trying to miss the red like that? That basically was already in the pocket. There's nothing you have to do with the cue ball in terms of getting a position for the black there. And what did I say like 5 seconds ago? He needs to make sure, if he runs himself out of position, that's one problem. But don't give away this brilliant position to Anthony Mcgill, because all the chances that Higgins had to himself have, well, now just been given to Anthony Mcgill here. And he's just looking to see which rest is going to be the best for him to try and play. And, well, I mean, it doesn't get better in terms of break building. John Higgins managed to get away on 2 of those occasions. Alan made another prediction. This is what I'm saying. You probably shouldn't, with the way this frame has gone. You know, it's basically a perfect position for Higgins, but then he only managed to score 16 points out of it. And all of a sudden you have to say it's a perfect position for Mcgill here. So many reds to try and choose from, as I say, and for Higgins to have a blunder like that on such an easy red. But I was hoping Mcgill 2-0, so John, odds go up. I get what you're saying, but I mean, as much as John Higgins was making a lot of errors, Mcgill still hasn't found the way to sort of punish him for those mistakes. Let's see if that's going to change though in frame number 4. At least get himself back level after leading the opening frame. And right now just looking to see, is this red going to be available into the right middle? I think in the end he'll go for it. And the cue ball will finish up nicely for the blue. But this is not an easy shot because the cushion is so close to the red. And you have to play this one with some sort of power. And in the end, drops this one in nicely. So this time, you can choose from either blue or pink to try and go for. I think the pink is going to be easier in terms of trying to get the pure potting angle. And the blue will have the cue ball travel a long way there. Off into the distance. And once again, it's a brilliant shot there from Mcgill. So, but yeah, it was a great shot there for him. As I say, it wasn't perfect on the red into the right middle, but managed to recover well. Probably will require rest once again here, as he has to bridge over a couple of reds. But just making the most out of the position so far. Only 1 point behind now of Higgins. And even though the shot time is not going to be too good for him in terms of stats there, has to forget about it and just focus on every single shot one at a time. Think about the next colour or the next red that he actually has to play from after that shot and get himself lined up on either one of those. This time it's a rest shot well executed by Mcgill. And once again you see and you have a look at this rest shot from Higgins. I mean, how fuming you must be with yourself after a missy shot like that. For in a semi-final, so it's probably unforgivable in the first round of any sort of ranking or non-ranking event for you. But to do that in a semi-final, especially when you're in a perfect control of a position like this, is something beyond belief there. And Mcgill so far making full usage of the position. 3 reds, 2 blacks and 1 pink there. And 1 more red to go. So the black to disappear into the right corner as well. And the angle on the cue ball is going to get it a little bit higher up the table. Get himself lined up for more of these shots. And right now he can choose from going for a red into the right middle, right corner. I think you go for the corner shots first. Simply to try and accumulate as many points on the black here. And when the reds are going to be a little bit less of them present on the table, you can actually try and go for the reds that you think a couple of shots ago that's going to be tricky. But with so much room to have the cue ball positioned nicely for one of those reds, all of a sudden you find that that shot is going to be a whole lot simpler for you to try and play. And 39 points, so Mcgill finally seems to be up to this pace. Shot time, shot break in between the shots is going to be going down and down right now. A break of 40, I don't know why it says 46 points, it should be on, there you go, it should be on 40 points right now. So takes the pin here into the left middle to make it 46 points right now though. So maybe I just saw a bit ahead of the future. Being 30 points clear right now and 99 still on the table here for him. So, I mean, could turn this into a potential century break. There's only 1 red that is on the cushion and it's also on the black ball cushion there. So I don't think that's going to be a massive issue for him anyway. Just roll the pink in nicely right now. Something seems to be bothering him right now on the head. Wants to shake it off there. And roll the pink into the left middle. Get himself lined up for the opposite side of the corner. So 75 points still on the table. And those points are going to evaporate very quickly there for Higgins. And I mean, tell me, what is this if not throwing a 3-1 lead that was there for you? Higgins will be really fuming with himself to have a mistake like that occur there. Mcgill is going to take the red into the left corner. 38 points clear right now. Still only 67 on the table. A couple of reds. So it separates Anthony Mcgill from going into the intermission with still all to play for. And potentially best of 7, first to 4 semi-final that we're going to see with a scoreline of 2 frames each. Going into the frame number 5. Mcgill just having a look at the scoreboard. And it's looking nicely there for him. about to break the record for the highest break in this match. And certainly very close to making it. The break that counts in terms of getting himself one more frame on the board. Black will put him 52 points clear. Game on. I mean, certainly game on, Kevin. If he just manages to take this black into the right corner, which he did. So one more red, and he'll be over the frame ball line. Probably one more colour after that, and will ensure that John Higgins won't be back to the table here. So most straightforward of reds to just roll into the right corner and go for the pink into the right middle for good measure. A waste there for Higgins, an absolute waste, but I suppose maybe you'll just say, I just want to give fans a little bit of entertainment. Probably not a good excuse, but some excuse that neutral fans will appreciate. Certainly not John Higgins' fans, as it is going to be a scoreline of 2 frames each. Anthony Mcgill dispatching this position really nicely, producing a break of 76 points and counting. Still having himself lined up on the blue into the right corner. And certainly GG's now. 66 points in between them. 43 on the table. So all about if Mcgill can actually make a century break and make it a first 100 break of the match here. And of the semi-final stage. Don't think we've seen too many of those in the quarter-final. Certainly don't think there were any in the Mitchell Man against Sean Murphy clash. Unless I'm missing something. And Mcgill is only a couple of shots away from doing that. Rattles the pink into the left middle. But ultimately still has got a massive task ahead of him to try and roll the red along the cushion. The angle is going to be there for him. And it's a perfect shot there on the red. So cut this one in really nicely. So all about a black transition for the 6 colour clearance in the end. And he'll need the yellow and the green to go after this black, as he is dispatched brilliantly. So needs the cue ball to roll. And it has rolled brilliantly there for him. So 2 shots away from making it a first century of the semi-final stage. Of course, being the first Scottish player to do that in the semi-final stage here. John Higgins only managed to produce a break of 62 points so far up to this point. And I mean, what a miss that is. On 99 points, Anthony Mcgill has missed one of the easiest greens that I'm not going to say you'll ever see, because that's what I said about the red for Higgins, but probably summarizes and gives you the idea of the way this match has been played. So it is going to be the break of 99 points, not quite a century break. By the way, whoever had a bet on potential century break and framed before, RIP is all I'm going to say, because that green was absolutely perfect for you to try and get it. He probably was celebrating before he actually potted it, but he's missed it. So we are going to go into the intermission break of 15 minutes time, and when we will be back, hopefully it's going to be a standard of a little bit better snooker. Until then, it is still John Higgins 2, Anthony Mcgill 2, all to play for the spot in the final of this British Open 2025. Right then everybody, and before we know it, it is now time for the second mini session to resume and the action to begin once again here, as John Higgins and Anthony Mcgill both have a very similar task ahead of themselves, is to try and win 4 out of potential 7 remaining frames now, and it's all about the action right now for John Higgins to get us on the way in frame number 5. Very important for him to try and make it count, really, in terms of the performance that he's managed to put in so far. It's just not been good enough. Anthony Mcgill managed to make him pay for that performance on 2 of those occasions, winning 2 frames each there, both of the players. And we're back to the action right now. Straight away, it's not a perfect break-off there by Higgins, and Mcgill has got a couple of reds to try and choose from into the left corner. I think those ones are going to be a potential solution and option for him, because the cue ball is going to naturally go around the black there and land himself up potentially onto one of the reds into the right corner there. And Mcgill decides to change the approach. I don't think he's played the shot too well, and it's very close for Higgins to try and see an easy red into the right middle. And if he can't see this red, this is going to be a little bit of a problem for Mcgill, because that will surely get himself started perfectly in terms of getting himself on the break here. So just having a look there to see if that's going to be the case there for him. Doesn't look to be the case, and has to find an alternative solution. So just try and send some of those reds away from the back there, send the cue ball up the table, and not leave anything away there to Anthony Mcgill. Nice shot there from Higgins at the end. So had to block the red into the middle, which he managed to. So managed to split up a couple of more reds as well. So the position already looking very nicely. And Mcgill is now just having a look to see what the raid's availability is going to be into the left corner. And potentially one of them can go through there underneath the entire bunch. The cue ball is going to be heading pretty safe as well. So that could be a clever shot for Mcgill to take on. I have Mcgill this frame. Probably not going to be too bad of an option, with the odds certainly going to be higher for that. And as I say, so far, not seeing anything from either one of them two that makes me feel like they can actually go on the run of winning 2 or 3 frames in a row. In the end, it was Mcgill to go for the first attempt. It looks like the same red is going to be possible there for Higgins into the right middle. So it was Mcgill to blink first there in terms of going for a chance. Didn't land himself on the colour though. And well, the wizard from V-Shot versus something. Yeah, well, anyway, back to the action now, and back to the serious stuff, hopefully for Higgins. Got himself a red onto the right middle. So play this one with care and get the cue ball in towards the brown area, but hopefully don't catch it full ball there, which is exactly what he did, but until then he actually managed to miss the red as well. So I think the trajectory of the cue ball would have been different and the red been potted, and therefore it's still alright here, Higgins. And well, let's have a little look what Mcgill can actually try and do himself from the position that he finds himself in. He can try and go for the red in towards the left corner, accelerate the cue ball into the bunch of reds as well, free up the pink if he goes for an aggressive shot here, but didn't want to go for that, and in the end probably should have gone for it, because the safety shot that he's actually tried to perform on John Higgins has backfired badly. Cue ball been nowhere near enough the area that he should have been. Catches one of the reds on the lower part of the table, full ball, and gives away an easy chance for John Higgins into the left corner here. So this is getting interesting in terms of seeing at least one of the players get an early chance here. So far it's been a waste from each, and Higgins now has got a chance to try and free up the pink here potentially. As He plays for the red underneath pink, and it's a nice shot there. And straight away with the black being possible only to the right hand side of the table, which is not available to Higgins right now. Has to go for the pink in the middle pocket. Get himself lined up on a couple of reds as well, into either left or right corner. And yeah, the black will have to be freed up to an extent here for Higgins to try and continue his pursuit of a break. One more red in towards the left middle. Can go for the pink or the blue after it. And he decided to go for the blue, so just trying to minimize the angle on the red, dropping off the front cushion. Smart idea, as long as you do that with pace and you actually control and make sure that the red is actually going to drop in itself. So 14 points right now for Higgins after this red. So a couple of reds on the top part of the table. The brown is going to be the only colour out of position currently. And Higgins won't mind at all the position that he's seen ahead of himself. How's everyone? Peter, how are you doing? Peter, and I'm well. Hope you are as well. I hope everyone in the chat is as well. I'm supporting John. You know what? I was almost expecting to see like one of those I'm supporting Mark when Selby's playing Williams or Williams is playing Allen there. But I certainly get who you're supporting. And I suppose the majority is going to be for John. It's a little bit more famous of the two. Multiple time world champion. And if you are all about the underdog story, I think you would like to see Mcgill step up in his performance and produce a battle, potentially take it to a decider, or at least take it to something like 9 or 10 frames. Already guaranteed to see 8 frames in between the two players, and a minimum of 4 more to follow after the intermission. And the opening one has started off nicely here for John Higgins, getting himself a break of 20 points. One more blue to go into the left middle. Still a couple of reds to choose from after that. And just try and send the cue ball into the bunch of reds here with a little bit of screw back. And get itself into the nice position. In the end, would have liked to see more of the red into the left corner. He's got one more that is going to be right underneath the bunch, but I don't think that would have been planned there for him because the cue ball hasn't got an angle on it. And even though you can see enough of the red in towards the left corner, closest by the black there, I think what he's afraid to do is send the cue ball into the black there and give away the positional play of the colour. So has to take the red closer to the bunch of reds and just try and accelerate the cue ball up away. And nicely played there from Higgins, but going to compromise the position on the pink obviously because the reds have gone higher up the table and the pink spot is going to be blocked right now at the time when the pink is actually going to be restored here. So Higgins decides to go for a tougher cut there on the black, but ultimately get himself a nicer position and a nicer colour selection. Smart shot there for him. And now 33 points clear of Anthony Mcgill going into frame number 5. Still no signs of slowing down just yet. One more red to go in the same left corner pocket. Probably screw back for the black for it to follow its example. And 223 people have already voted. Still very much confident of John Higgins winning this match against Anthony Mcgill. That is up to 73%. The highest that I've seen it be. It was actually, I think it was 82% at some point. So still way to go there for Higgins in terms of the percentage play. But a 3-2 little gap there will be nice there for him. To do that, he needs to accumulate 30 more points or so. And it's going to be nicely away into frame number 6 without any more issues. So for now, takes a red into the right corner here. Pushes the cue ball through nicely. And gets himself lined up on the black here. So all about the next couple of shots on the black here with the reds that were easy for Higgins to try and play. Pretty much ending up to this point. And all about the shot selection right now as he gets the black in really nicely into the left corner. Positions himself even nicer on the red, into the same corner pocket. And after this, red will disappear. He officially will have a permission from John to try and take the pink out of the game and put it back to its spot, with it being freed up to at least the right, middle and left corner, which is something that wasn't available until the red that he just played was taken out of the table. So for now, it's a break of 50 points. Not seeing too many of those so far from John Higgins, only 2 as far as I'm aware. And Anthony Mcgill was able to produce a 50+ break in the previous frame. Certainly was looking likely a century break there for him, but missed the green as a century ball and ended up on the 99 points in the end. So John takes a little bit of hesitation. I think he doesn't want to see the cue ball go into the reds just yet, with him having 2 more available reds to try and choose from. But the angle on the blue makes it pretty much impossible here as this job. But once again, beautifully played there from Higgins. And surely right now, it is going to be a straightforward route for him to end this frame. Something that I've said before though. So it's never quite over until it actually is over. And happy days, certainly is happy days for John Higgins' fans. And the world number 6 seems to make a significant step in towards the final spot. All about just taking this black into the corner pocket, as he does. Nicely done. So 63 points ahead, 75 on the table. So the red and the colour is going to get him over the line with a frame ball. And he's already topping up the break of his highest of the match, being 62 in frame number 3. And he's taking that 2 points clear right now. So lines up for the black, which is going to be the frame ball for him to take on into the left corner and get the cue ball through the black ball cushion here. Potentially use the left side cushion if he wants to. Get himself lined up on the reds as well. So 2 cushion escape as predicted, and 71 points lead with only 67 points on the table. So John Higgins looks to start off frame number 5 with a much better rhythm and much fewer errors here. Once again, has got 4 red to try and choose from, so I don't think he'll need the last of the reds that is currently sitting on the cushion, because if he takes those 4 reds with the blacks, it's going to get him to 32 points on just those 8 pots there, and it's going to be more than enough for him to actually get a century on the board, the first one of the match, and therefore the highest break of the match as well, still being 19 points away from that, with Anthony Mcgill's break of 99 points there. And up to this point, as I say, all about trying to get himself into some sort of rhythm and momentum. Certainly is GG's in this frame, but all about if he can actually make a century break here and get us underway in that count as well. So 87 points already. So the black will make it 94 here. And a red and a colour of a value up to the blue will get him 100 points exactly there. So of course we'll make that 101 with the pink, 102 with the black, until he can still try and make it a little bit more of a points value in terms of getting the red on the right hand cushion. As far as I'm aware, we haven't had any maximum breaks so far in the British Open campaign, so I think that will be the first tournament this season that we didn't have a maximum break, but we certainly are going to have a brilliant century break here from John Higgins. And it's been a really good break there for him. Of course, still not over, as he's got a chance to try and roll this red along the cushion. Gets this one in really nicely as well. So, all about John Higgins' show. Not yet. Well, I mean, when you say not yet, if you're counting on, a maximum break, in this match, as to improve the standard. But it's a lot better there from Higgins, getting himself 109 points on the board. Still could go as high as 136 if my maths is correct. If he makes a total clearance here, as I say, all colours apart from the brown have been on their spots continuously throughout this break. So the green transition onto the brown is going to be the point. But we're not going to reach that point, so it's going to end on a break of 111, as you'll miss the green once again. So not necessarily being friends with the ball colours so far, John Higgins, but that is certainly the best that we've seen in terms of the break building. And it's now John Higgins 3, Anthony Mcgill 2. Once again, the world number 6 is upper frame on the world number 57. All to play for still, as we're only 5 frames in. So no real clue on who's going to be the first finalist of this year's British Open in 2025. And as a reminder, after the semi-finals are played today, the finals played tomorrow, we are going to be back with you on the International Championship qualifiers. I think selection of them will be taken into the play, with Ronnie O'Sullivan still potentially down to play at this stage against Sanderson Lam, I think it is, for the second time of asking. So Neil Robertson is going to be featuring alongside him there, so we could always try and make a little rotation if O'Sullivan decides to withdraw himself last second. And yeah, after the International Championship qualifiers, we're going to see the China Grand Prix, other known as Xi'an Grand Prix there. And then we're going to be heading into the Northern Ireland Open. So Mark Allen will be looking to get himself a potential 2 out of 2 in terms of the Home Nation Series for these years in the tour, after getting himself a brilliant start in the Home Nations after defeating Zhou Yulong in a brilliant decider and blockbuster final in the end. A comeback of all time from Zhou Yulong still found him 1 frame short of victory and has to, well, get himself into the 6th ranking event final for now and hope to make it the maiden ranking event win there for him. But as I say, and I did say yesterday, we are going to see the new final pair and therefore a new winner of this season, with all the pairings already being eliminated, the likes of Ali Carter and Karen Wilson in the Shanghai Masters, Neil Robertson and Ronnie O'Sullivan in Saudi Arabia Masters, and Wuhan Open we've seen Sal Godon and Gary Wilson, and English Open, as I mentioned, has seen Mark Allen and Zhou Yulong. And Anthony Mcgill starts off with the break-off that sees the red go very close to the right middle. Not sure if Higgins can actually get through to that red, and if he can, it's going to be a massive head start there for him. But the problem is he probably has to send the cue ball into the bunch of reds, because the pink is tied up to the reds. The black has got a red next to him as well, so only ball colours and the blue for him to try and deal with, but obviously he can't actually get through to the red because he's gone for a 2-cushion escape there, and it's actually performed it nicely. So Mcgill can try and free up the black here, try and send the red towards the top part of the table, get the cue ball on towards the black ball cushion. I think that will develop and make sure that the frame is going to run a lot faster and smoother there, but he's got something else on his mind. Of course, he can try and execute that shot selection that he's got up his sleeve. And great, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, still all to play for. And for now, it's a decent shot there from Mcgill, but not getting the cue ball on the bulk sort of cushion is going to be a waste of a shot selection there. Because it was almost having a touching ball at that time. So could have put Higgins into a little bit more of trouble. And I think he'll just send the cue ball in towards sort of same spot. Send the red in towards the left part of the table. And get it connected with the bunch potentially. Very, very shortly here. In the end, he's gone for something else. So he sent the cue ball in towards the lower part of the table with no reds to give away there. Obviously trying to force Mcgill to open up some of these reds, if not get initiative at the table, then try and get the frame to run as quick as possible for him. And I think that's something that John Higgins is going to be very much interested in doing, trying to make sure that it's not going to be any slowing down of game. And Mcgill potentially himself has got a red to try and take on into the middle, but he refused the shot selection there, and he just decided to try and take this red out of the game and put it closer to the black ball cushion in terms of the cue ball, and send the red towards the bulk area itself. So Mcgill certainly not being too impatient here so far, which is good to see. And I think the response from John Higgins is going to be very quick to follow. I think he'll be a weird shot if he doesn't try to send the cue ball on towards the black ball cushion, get the black freed up as well, which is exactly what he's done. So the right thing to do there. Accelerate the play and potentially try and do the same thing here with Mcgill having a chance to free up the pink. Is he going to give away a touch and ball though? He doesn't want to do that. And the referee seems to call it touch and ball though. So John Higgins will have a short selection to try and go for. Either try and send the cue ball into the free area on the black ball. And in the end it doesn't look like it's touch and ball. So not too sure what the referee was saying to John Higgins. I obviously read that. As the cue ball was actually touching one of the reds. In the end doesn't look like it was. And we are still going to go into a little bit of rolling up to the bunch and rolling back out of it. Mcgill being on the receiving end of things here. And Higgins once again. Don't think he'll try and change anything up here in terms of the play. Try and send the cue ball away from the bunch and in towards the left hand side of the table. And once again just have a little bit of topspin on this white. Potentially have one of those reds to go towards the left middle. There's a potential chance for an opener there for either one of the two. But so far with them being so clinical in terms of the safety play, it's always going to be that you're not going to have too many shots to try and choose from in terms of the attacking play. But probably patience is going to be the key at this point of the game. And whoever will get the first chance surely will have to take it. Otherwise, the position at... well, I expect the position to develop massively. I still think it's quite raw. But as Mcgill plays the cue ball into the bunch of reds nicely, it's just freed up two reds there. I think one of them will have to go back somewhere close to the cushion though, because Higgins hasn't got too many reds to try and play a safety shot from. And it's always going to be a risk, to be fair. And when you try and play the way that Mcgill and Higgins actually play with each other, you're going to be faced to, well, sort of send the cue ball up and down the table. But also, if you're going to give some of those reds some freedom, I mean, the person that you're playing up against, your opposition, may be forced to take this red back to the cushion there because he hasn't got any more reds to try and play a safety from. So that's also something that you have to consider if you're trying to evaluate the time frame that it's going to take for this frame number 6 to actually find its winner. So far, no real mistakes in the safety battle made by either one of the two. And Mcgill just has to be careful. As right now he finds himself a little bit on the back foot with the cue ball being tied up to the black ball cushion. Can't afford to send the cue ball into the bulk area just yet, unless he tries to take one of those reds out of the game there. And decides to go for the safe option and just roll up to the red yet again here. So, don't think it'll be a touch and ball this time around. So, Higgins has to send one more red towards the top part of the table. And eventually, we'll get to the bottom of that. With us running out on all of those reds on the lower part of the table. So, you have to try and do something with the ones that are going to be positioning yourself quite close to the bulk cushion area. So, for now, only 2 of those are onto the top part of the table, and still the remaining 13 are either bunched up in below the pink or are still underneath the blue line into the middle. So Mcgill just having a look to see if he can actually try and make a transition of the cue ball in towards the top part of the table, because that will give him, well, it certainly will speed up the frame, because we'll basically be back to square one there. And just say it was a brilliant break-off shot there from Mcgill. And he's just looking to see, maybe he'll try and put one of those reds into the open play away from the cushion area. Or maybe he'll try and do something the opposite of that. In the end, I don't think he executed this one too well. He's going to leave this red on for Higgins there. It's going to be a difficult cut there for John. And He certainly can try and take this red into the right corner, but it just changes the complexity of the shot as the difficulty of it as well. The pink is still not available, but apart from that, all 5 colours are very much on their spot. So if he takes this red on and he manages to pot it here, Higgins, he'll be nicely away into the free zone, really, of just trying to do whatever he wants in terms of the breaks here. But it's a massive shot for him to try and take on. It's a massive shot for him to try and miss here. It's a risk there for John, but he seems to take in this on. And it needs to pot it, and he'll miss it. So I haven't seen too many of those long shots made there by either one of the two, but was always going to be playing the cue ball in towards the cushion there to get himself a little bit of a harder shot on the black, but just to make sure Mcgill is not going to have an easy introduction of himself. So I think he's got a red into the left middle. It's his only option, but once again, the cut on that is not going to be pretty for him. And in the end, he decides to go for a more straightforward shot selection and get himself lined up into the zone of the black ball cushion as well. So Higgins has to try and roll up to the reds this time around. And you're doing final all sessions. Well, this is what I'm saying. I'm doing final myself because I'm going to be in Cheltenham there. So I'm going to skip the final and hopefully watch the entirety of it at Cheltenham as well. But as I say, I think it was a little bit of a weird tournament, and I actually think because it was a pick a year ago almost, I got a ticket by chance. I think it probably is the perfect tournament to go to, because I don't think the hype has been there. I don't think the tournament's still as popular, but I think the prize money is going to motivate the players, which is all you need as a fan to actually go and watch it. And for now, it's a brilliant shot there from Mcgill. From Higgins, I should say, because Mcgill finds himself in a difficult position. Right now, the cue is going to be very close in towards the black ball cushion here. And he's going to struggle to try and get himself into the safe position from here. Try and roll the cue ball onto the reds here. And get himself lined up for a couple of more safety exchanges. And until then, Mcgill has to just take his time on these shots. And even though he does find himself on the receiving end of things, it's been, 15 minutes since we started this frame. Still no real chance for anyone to get on top of this final. And get themselves into a decent run of play. But this is a massive blunder for John Higgins. Just as I say, Mcgill has been on the receiving end of things every single shot of here. But Higgins has gone for an absolute horror. Decelerated the cue ball way too much there. I think he caught the red with too much contact there. And he's given a red away now to Mcgill into the right middle. The last pot time for Anthony Mcgill has been over 25 minutes ago. So right now he finds himself in a difficult position right now. Trying to take this one into the right middle. Try and get himself lined up as well for one of the ball colours. So has to go for a backspin on the cue ball here. And get this one rolled in. Try and get himself aimed for the yellow into its own pocket. In the end, the red is in. Easy on the yellow though, because I don't think he's got any more backup options there. I think he is just about on the yellow, so he'll see enough of the yellow to try and guide this one into the pocket and have himself lined up on a couple of reds into the green pocket for the measure. So far, as I say, it's straight in frames in between each other. It is Mcgill being on the receiving end of frames wins as well. And right now, he finds himself on the break after a lengthy safety battle. Enjoy. Thank you very much there. I certainly will. And as I say, if you are wondering about that, that's the only time that's going to happen throughout the tournament. And all the Triple Crown, all the Champion, all the non-ranking event titles like the Champion of Champions, German Masters, Home Nations, all of them will be covered. It was just one of those that you want to have a little bit of experience yourself. As I say, the perfect thing would have been to try and see Ronnie there, but with him being withdrawn from the tournament before it really started, that was never on the cards. But as I say, if you ask me, the perfect lineup for me is going to be Higgins against Murphy. Very much looking forward to see a little bit of attacking play, and hopefully that one going the distance. With me, don't think I'll have a preference if it's going to be Murphy against Higgins. Apart from that, I think we will have a preference in any of the other circumstances. How much will the tickets, please? I've got no idea, I'll be honest with you. As I say, I got them by chance, and it was almost a year ago, so got absolutely no clue. And yeah, I got them of a friend, but I don't think he would have paid for them anyway, so I think it will be a little bit of a dead idea to ask. So I think it would have been, because I checked the price, I think the all-day admission ticket, the standard one, would have been the £95 for both the afternoon and the evening session. But I got the ones with a little bit more of perks. And in terms of Mcgill here, I think he finds himself settled into this match right now really comfortably, because you don't see any of the misses that we've seen earlier on here in the frames 1 or 2. It just gets down for the shots, doesn't seem to miss a lot of them, especially since the intermission, but just wants to be clinical with the positional side of play. And something that's actually let him down here. Didn't land perfectly on this green. I think the angle was there for the for the cue ball to try and accelerate, but similarly on the shot that Higgins messed up to actually set up this chance for Mcgill, I think he actually finds himself in a spot of bother, so will take this green into the yellow pocket, but makes it a difficult shot for him to try and take on, and looks like he will miss this one, and he will beat John Higgins back to the table. So let's talk about Mcgill being a little bit more clinical since the intermission, and that being his first chance, and the one that he had to go through quite a lot in terms of the positional play, getting himself lined up on the ball colours, transitioning from top and lower part of the table. This time he finds himself in a bad position, sat in his chair, and John Higgins will return to the action. So we'll have a couple of reds to choose from. I think the one that you actually go for is going to be the one into the right middle. I think you could try and go for a rest shot if you wanted into the left corner as well. The only problem with the shot into the right middle is going to be the fact that he has to bridge over a red. So we found a way to just get the other side of the cue ball, and he's nicely into the break right now. So John Higgins is only 17 points behind Anthony Mcgill, of course. So all about getting the most out of the reds that are currently underneath the pink. The position is horrible in terms of the reds, not so horrible in terms of the colours there, with the green being the only colour out of position, the colour that Anthony Mcgill has missed previously on this occasion. Higgins goes back down on the blue and goes back up there for a couple of times, so obviously understanding that he has to play into the bunch of reds surely right now, doesn't want to catch the pink with too much of an angle there, and I think he got unlucky. Don't think he would have tried to catch the pink at all there, and he's got into the reds, but the cue ball got sent into the left hand cushion, so he's got one red really that he can try and attempt, but this is a massive cut for him, and as the angle, you can just have a look here. I don't think it's a shot that he has to take on in the semi-final. He's just having a look to see if he's going to leave a red on. Well, I mean, to be fair to him, I get what he's saying. He's not going to leave any more reds, apart from the one that he actually misses, should he go for the shot into the right corner. But as I say, the closer that he gets to potting this red, but still misses, the higher the chance that Anthony Mcgill is going to come back to the table to a red being over the right corner. So a massive shot this is for Higgins, try and roll this red into, and in the end it's a brilliant shot there for him, and he's still in this break. Was a massive shot there and could be the one between victory and defeat as your difference. So Higgins, ooh, I mean, this black only just about goes past this red. I mean, maybe that was something that was actually considering to have a go for, but this is very, very close for him. Yeah, it was always going to happen. He touches the red on the way in for the black. So 7 points is going to be the end of a break there for him. And it was such a tough ask there for him, especially bridging over the pink. I think the black would have just about dropped into the pocket, but the red being in the way for the front part of it, it's played its role, and Anthony Mcgill will come back to the table after just 7 points scored there for John Higgins. We'll try and go for the same red that has actually got him into this position, along the cushion and into the right corner. Doesn't look like he makes this one. Oh, just about did. Good one in the end, because he was always going to get a little bit of safety on the same red, with the black being in the way of the cue ball. And, well, I mean, we're now 5.5 frames in, and Anthony Mcgill is probably the favourite right now for winning this frame. Not a lot of points on the table, actually, especially if you think that it's only been 26 points scored by both of the players here. In total, there's only 83 points on the table. So you take half of those away, and you're going to be nicely away into the 7th frame with no frames to separate the two players, the world number 6 and the world 57. And I think the odds are going to start to go up there for Higgins, because yet to see something brilliant from him. It's almost like he plays a good shot there, Higgins, and then he'll have a setback to put him back needing one more good shot, and he just can't string two together. And Mcgill certainly has found the easier chances, but to be fair to Mcgill, he's also been more clinical with the chances. He had a massive, absolutely massive opportunity there, Higgins, in frame number, I think it was frame number 4, and he managed to give it away there to Mcgill, for Mcgill actually to eliminate him before the intermission. And now finds himself 27 points clear, but ultimately not perfect on this red though, into the left corner. Has to be careful with him. And he just rolled this one in, with sending the cue ball up the table in for the bow colours. The green's going to be there waiting for you, pretty much over the yellow pocket, and you can actually try and get some nice little angle off it. And wants to miss the red though on the way, and it's a brilliant shot there from Mcgill once again. Eliminating the reds at this stage is probably a good idea there for him, and he's managed to do that with 2 of those already, getting a break of 17 points, 67 on the table, and 28 is the gap now. So the problem that Mcgill actually finds himself in right now is, after this green, what red has he got to actually be aiming for? Probably the only one is going to be the one into the green pocket, but that's going to require a rest, probably an extension, and 31 points of a difference. He's still more than doable there in terms of a comeback from Higgins, but every single one of those reds that Mcgill manages to just drop into the pocket will make the job a lot harder there for John. And Mcgill just looking to see if he can put his body on the table without touching the red. And this is a massive shot right now off this break, and really nicely taken there. So he's still on the break, just 21 points, but could prove to be one of the most important of the breaks in the entire match there. So 32 points clear, 59 on the table. So 2 more reds is all it takes, but he hasn't got two of those reds to try and be aiming for in terms of the cue ball placement. Has to go into a potential bunch of 2 reds now. And, I mean, has he got those available into the left corner is the question. And with the way and the approach that he's taken, the answer seems to be yes there. So he's just having a look to see if the one closest to him will go by. I think he will. I think he'll have the better angle as well. But do you risk it? Is it going to be a deja vu from the Higgins mistake, when the red was clipped there by the black to try and drop into the left corner? I think Mcgill has to go for the one that is going to be a little bit of a more difficult cut there. Close game, it certainly is. And it's all about right here, right now for Anthony Mcgill. And it's a perfect shot yet again right now. Probably the shot that will win in this frame, because now 38 points clear. The black will put it 44 points clear, and only one more red will be needed. And this red is now available to him. The match time has just gone over 2 hours. So you had the breaks in between the frames and the 15 minutes intermission. And that's how you get to around 2.5 hours right now. that he finds ourselves in. So, still 45 minutes. So, 45 points in between the two. And all about this red for Anthony Mcgill as his frame ball. Black to make sure that we won't see John Higgins back in the frame. And it is now a scoreline of 3 frames each. So I did say Mcgill was going to take some of those frames away from John Higgins, but I didn't necessarily think it was going to be so close as it actually is right now. Mcgill once again with a brilliant shot there to get the red freed up into the available part of the table. And well, I mean, from the position that he actually found himself in, it's a brilliant break of 43 points. It might be an understatement, but, you know, if he produces a total clearance from here, it'll be an absolute miracle. And he's still on the cards of doing that, with the red being the last piece of the jigsaw in terms of finding the last solution to the problem. I think he'll just about drop this one in, and he will. I mean, this is a brilliant break from Mcgill. He probably is going to not take this one too seriously and just roll the green into its own pocket with some power. But he still gets himself on the yellow though. So break of 50 points as the cue ball will stay out. Certainly having the appreciation of just how much effort Mcgill managed to put in this break. Could still go for a total clearance of 77 points. Never mind is what I should have said, because it is the end of a break, but it certainly is not the end of the match here, because it is Anthony Mcgill 3, John Higgins 3. Nothing to separate the two players at all. Yes, we are going to go into, well, a guarantee of 9 frames, and could still go into 10 and 11 frames there. Should require more than that, as John Higgins and Anthony Mcgill can't find a winner in the opening 6 frames. It is now Anthony Mcgill 3, John Higgins 3 as well. I mean, this is now turning into the best of 5 match and first to 3. This is not what John Higgins probably would have been planning ahead of him, so I don't think he would have taken this match for granted. I think he knows, especially in being the compatriot of Anthony Mcgill, just what he can do on his day and at the peak of his career. But as I say, he certainly was in with a great chance of getting himself with a better lead ahead of this frame. Doesn't seem to happen though at this moment in time, and it is going to be nothing to separate the two as they go into the 7th frame after a little bit of a break that Anthony Mcgill decided to go for, probably a bathroom break. John Higgins stays in his chair, as he has been for the majority of frame number 6 as well. Needs to make sure he changes the momentum in his favour and makes usage of the chances that actually present to himself. But for the Neutral's point of view, it's been a perfect match there, because you still don't know who's going to win, and you still don't know what's going to happen in any of those frames. As I say, they've been very inconsistent and therefore very unpredictable for either one of the two to try and string 2 frames together. I don't think we've seen that ever since the 1-0 lead there from Mcgill. Higgins managed to take 2 frames on the bounce, and I think ever since it was just trading 1 frames each year that it was. So there you go there. And best of 11 frames all of a sudden with a scoreline of 3 frames each. It turns into best of 5. John Higgins still waiting patiently in his chair. Doesn't seem to be bothered by the circumstances that he's facing, but has to start performing right here, right now. Anthony can win this. I mean, certainly can, no doubt about it. And any live stream, no doubt about it that there's not going to be any live stream. But Anthony can try and win this. But what he does need to do is get himself this frame 1. He can't afford to be going 1 frame down all the time to John Higgins, because it's just not going to be sustainable for him. In the end, what has it been? 1-0 frame of 1-0 lead for Mcgill, and ever since he's never had a lead in this match ever since then. So it's been 2 frames on the bounce for Higgins, and he found himself leading by 2 frames to 1. Then he found himself leading by 3 frames to 2. We go into the 7th frame. He can't afford to do the same thing here, Mcgill, but certainly seems to be taking his time now. Still no sign of him returning back to the table here. And in terms of the highest break, I mean, Higgins' break was brilliant when he managed to come back from the intermission with a bang. As Anthony Mcgill will indeed now return back to his chair, and Higgins will get us underway for frame number 7. All to play for right now. And this is turning into a frame and a match where mistakes will be punished, and any sort of mistake can lead you to a potential frame loss, with the players finally getting themselves warmed up and up to speed. Mcgill will have a chance of the red into the right middle, you would think. Well, a bad break-off shot there by Higgins. So, has to roll this one in without real hesitation and power to get himself a chance to set the cue ball down the table. And really wants to play this one with power. He decided not to, and I think that's a decision that is going to cost him any chance of building a break here. I think he can just about get through to this pink into the left middle, but certainly not a shot that is worth taking on there if you're Anthony Mcgill. And, well, hasn't really got any more options there apart from the pink. He was always going to run himself out of position there. And right now, just go for the green here. And just get yourself ahead in the match technically for the first time since the opening frame. With it being 3 frames each, you have to go down to the points. But yeah, I mean, the break-off shot there from Higgins. He got the red way too heavily there. And one of those has gone past the blue zone, very much past the bulk line as well. Not often you see that, especially from the player like John Higgins. But only was punished with a single point break there from Anthony Mcgill. And still guaranteed of 3 more frames after the previous one to follow. 2 more including this one. If one of the 2 players is to win all 3 of them, still no sign of that happening for now. As Higgins go for a decent safety shot there. He gets the red into the lower part of the table. And the cue ball in behind the yellow nicely here. So gets himself lined up with 1 more shot now. Anthony Mcgill trying to send it towards the left part of the corner. But wants the cue ball to have a little bit more speed there. I think it's going to run out of it until it reaches the bulk line. But in the end, going to get quite lucky with the cue ball finishing right underneath the yellow. So we'll see what Higgins can do from here. Certainly, I don't think it would have been a real chance of a attacking shot right now anyway, even if the cue ball hadn't landed just below the yellow. Don't think there's just any reds available there for Higgins to try and take off here. But it's a decent safety shot. The line is brilliant from the cue ball. How's the pace doing? And he's perfect there in terms of the cue ball landing exactly onto the ball cushion. And Anthony Mcgill surely will have some of the left part of the reds to try and deal with. Get himself into the momentum and the groove points. 74% of you still think that is going to be John Higgins's match to lose. With the vast majority of you over 3, well, a little bit under of 3/4, seen as he's going to be the winner and the first finalist here. And for now, we still find ourselves in a safety mix. This time, it's a little bit of a mistake there from Mcgill in terms of judging the pace of the cue ball. And Higgins potentially can try and go for this red into the right corner. Certainly, no one's saying that he can't. And send it towards the top part of the table. I mean, the cue ball, but I don't think he's going to try and do that. So he's going to go a reverse shot on that. So he's going to try and get it from the right-hand side. Send the cue ball in behind the yellow. The line was there. The pace necessarily wasn't. And Anthony Mcgill can't see enough of those reds to go for an attacking shot. But still, can see more than enough to go for a safety shot of his own. But has to be careful with these types of shots because he doesn't want to leave the cue ball very close to the jaws of the pocket because there's always a risk of repeating something that we've seen John Higgins do one of the opening frames. As Mcgill just having a look to see if one of the reds that he'll be leaving away there to John Higgins is going to be potable into the left corner. The answer seems to be yes, it will be. So, yeah, the more Mcgill actually takes time on the shot, the more I actually think he's going to try and go for the red into the left corner. And we're going to see a little bit of a do-or-die shot, and we will do that. And it's a brilliant do-or-die shot there from Mcgill, because it felt like it was a little bit of a desperation shot. In the end, look at the pace of the cue ball, and look at the cue ball was finished. I mean, even if he missed the red, he wasn't going to give anything away there to John Higgins. And he's just landed himself perfectly onto the top part of the blue to get himself a nice little cushion of a single frame now. And he's in with a chance. 2 reds eliminated, 13 left on the table. You know, we take 7 more of those out, and all of a sudden, I mean, who says he can't be the winner of this frame, especially if you play shots like that? I mean, that is brilliant. 2 shots, probably 2 shots of the match there from Mcgill. One of the shots from Higgins was actually really nice from him, getting on the collar after a long shot, but this is a pure magic there from Mcgill. The blue into the right hand cushion to send the cue ball into the bunch of reds and get himself a nice little shot selection of at least 2 more reds to try and go for. Remember, Higgins hasn't got any more frames to spare right now in terms of his advantage. And Anthony Mcgill has now got 8 points on the board after getting 7 on the current break. So now has got a rest shot with the black to take on into the right corner. And try and decelerate the cue ball really massively when he hits the cushion, because one of the reds will be waiting there for him and doesn't want to get past that zone, because if he does do that, he'll have to probably attempt a red into the left middle, which is going to be a struggle. I think he has overrun this red. Just as I was saying, he wanted to bounce off the cushion to be as little as possible there for the cue ball, but in the end, I think he's going to find himself a little bit in no man's land here. Maybe you'll have to go for a shot into the green or right middle pocket. Yeah, creates a situation out of nothing really, because if he goes for the red that is still available into the left corner, the cue ball is going to go into the black, and before you know it, not much is going to be available in terms of the colors for him to try and choose from. Cue ball is going to be sent into the black here though. And is he going to find himself on the blue? Yes, he will. So gets a little kiss on the red, and he called that a lucky kiss there. Anthony Mcgill is now 16 points clear. Still a couple of reds available to his name, with them being pretty much forming a straight line there underneath the pink and into the left-hand cushion. I think he's going to try and destroy this straight line and get himself lined up on one of those reds. And unless he's got one into the left corner, he's really unlucky there, because I don't think there's any more reds for him to try and choose from, and probably not here. So, I mean, is that red possible into the left corner? He's certainly having a good look at it. Think just about is there, so he's alright. As I say, it's not just as lucky. I think he would have been really unlucky, and that red or neither other were available there to him. And, well, 22 points could be a little bit of an understatement here from Mcgill. But is he now frees up those reds in a nice way there for him. He's got a couple of easy ones into the left corner or left middle. The pink is going to be available to go into the majority of the pockets. And you return the black on his spot, and all of a sudden it sends into a brilliant frame-winning chance. That already will have Anthony Mcgill some points on the board, 29 already after this red. And once again lining himself nicely for the blue into the left corner. Rolls this one in as well for good measure. He's now 35 points clear. So all about the next couple of reds there for him. And it's going to be a very interesting end to this semi-final. Especially if Anthony Mcgill gets himself a 4-3 frame lead there. Something that he probably is the favourite of right now. You know, getting himself so nicely for this pink into the left corner once again here. And just accumulating those points by point there. Once again, it's got one more red to go into the right corner this time around. So push through the cue ball, get himself lined up on the pink into the left corner. A couple of more reds to try and choose from on the lower and the upper side of the table. I think he'll go for the screw back on the cue ball though. So looking to line up the pink into the corner. Can try and go for the black as well there to just put it back on his spot. Could be a positive thing for him to do, but I suppose he doesn't want to go for the rest there and risk the positional side of the reds. So maybe one for the future. And for now, leaving the current. 48 points of a break after the pink will disappear into the right corner. And certainly looking good right now for Anthony Mcgill. Get himself lined up as he just has a look there. If he is going to try and go for the black into the left corner, I need a century this frame. Does it look good? Not really. Not really. I mean, it looks good for Mcgill to win the frame, but I think you've done that at the wrong time, I'll be honest, because Mcgill has got 3 reds available to his name, but there's a cluster of 4 more reds being punched up really closely there. And I don't think he's going to be too eager to try and free those up, because he's going to be 59 points on the table. It's possible, but unlikely. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think there'll be a century break. I think Mcgill had his chance to do that earlier in the match, but didn't manage to do it. As I say, the only reason why I'm saying it's not going to be a century is because those 4 reds that I'm talking about are going to be 59 points of a value. And with Mcgill having 57 points of a gap, having 2 more reds on the black ball cushion, he's not going to need them 4 reds. And therefore, he's always going to take it with a little bit of a, exhibition shot there. I don't think he's going to care about century in the semi-final of a ranking event here. And he has to just concentrate on getting those 2 reds out of the way. But I suppose the confidence boost could be, there's going to be no pressure on him taking those shots on. But certainly does seem to be a little bit of pressure, as he can't seem to choose which red to go for. Either the one along the cushion into the right corner, or the one into the left corner here. And the angle on the black will try and get himself up for the pink, maybe into the middle. But I mean, the century hunt is probably over. That's what I'm saying. It was always going to happen with Mcgill having 58 points on the board. And right now, I know the script. He'll go for a safety shot and he will refuse the attempt of a pink either into the left corner or the left middle there. He basically lines up alongside the pink, with it being lined up nicely onto its own spot there. So alongside the spot, and unless you go for a double, really you're risking nothing. You're risking something you shouldn't risk at this stage of the frame. Even though he will be disappointed, it's still a nice little cushion of 58 points. And Higgins just has to wait for his chance to come, and looks like he will have one more of those. 67 points on the table. 58 is the gap there in between the two. And, well, with Higgins not having any more frames to his advantage, this is turning into a little bit of a problem there for him. Does he go for the blue, though? I mean, this is a massive shot there for him. Surely he doesn't try to take this on into the yellow pocket. No, he won't. He goes for the right shot there. He pushes the blue on towards the left-hand side of the cushion. And it is the century hunt over, but the frame hunt still remains on the scene there for Mcgill. 58 points ahead, 67 on the table here for John Higgins. So that blue being pushed onto the side cushion is going to be a massive factor. But also, another factor is going to be the fact that if Mcgill does manage to get one of those reds in, he'll be 59 points clear with 59 on the table. And I don't necessarily like to see where the cue is going. It's going to be very close towards the green pocket. It's going to stay out though. So Mcgill will come back to the table, facing not the most straightforward shots here, as he tries to get himself lined up for the right corner shot. In the end, doesn't look likely at this stage though. As I say, even though he does only need one of those reds, I don't think he wants to take a necessary gamble there. And just having a look to see what is actually going to happen here. as he rolls the cue ball onto the left part of the table, and in the end it's a decent shot there for him. Still think he could have done better, because what that gives is a chance to Higgins to spread those four reds away from each other, but ultimately Mcgill still has put himself some sort of safety on the line with him getting the red into the right hand cushion. So all about Higgins trying to split up those reds, but he didn't fancy doing that. He obviously feels like he wants Mcgill to try and do it, with him leaving a difficult safety shot once again to try and face. The angle on the cue ball is not going to be too kind to him. And, well, Mcgill has got a shot selection to try and make. He can try and take the red he's just put on the right-hand cushion into the open play. Or he can try and say, I'll try and split up those reds to an extent there, but putting at least one of those in on the opposite cushion is going to be more of a major factor for me. And he's just looking to see if any of those reds are going to be available into the left corner, which is a sign that he's not going to try and disturb them and leave their position in the current state. But still, doesn't seem to make his mind up yet. He looks to the left side of the table, then he looks to the right side of the table, and in the end he goes for the only red to be put back into the position, the cue ball to be sent towards the top part of the table. And well, he decided to go for something else there, sending the red onto the top part of the table, but surprised to see Mcgill gone for that shot, because unless he was gonna get the brown in between the cue ball and the red, which was going to be a really tough ask anyway, I think it's going to be a straightforward shot now for Higgins if he wants to go for a cushion first shot there, or even if he tries to get the red full ball, he can actually kill two birds with one stone potentially. I mean, if he does land the cue ball in behind the yellow, he can try and send the red in towards the other reds there, try and split those up, and doesn't want to put the black on the cushion though, and something that he was very close to doing, but I still think he's going to be alright though. So Mcgill, I think it was the wrong shot there for him to try and take on there in terms of Mcgill's perspective, and right now he finds himself on the back foot here. Still 58 points clear, 67 on the table. So had that been one less red on the table, would have been a lot easier of a task for Mcgill. Still doesn't seem to be likely at this stage though for it to be made easy by John Higgins, but Mcgill recovers well to an extent. I think he managed to cover up all the angles there for Higgins to get the cue ball into the safe area, so you can't attempt any of those reds into the left corner because there's not one that will go past the other one. So probably he's actually going to be forced to sending those reds in towards the left hand cushion there and getting himself lined up for the cue ball being in behind the black there. Decent attempt there for Higgins, just brushes off the reds, and once again it could have been a possibility there for Mcgill to try and send the reds apart from each other but still on the cushion, send the cue ball onto the top part of the table. And probably the shot that he has to take on, really. I mean, has he got anything better available to him right now? I don't think he does. And in the end, it's going to be running out of patience there, Mcgill. Because as much as he wants to win this frame, he also doesn't want it to drag on for so long that he actually will inevitably give away a chance to John Higgins. But the beauty of that is, he probably is likely to get a chance himself, as we're yet to find out on who's going to be the player with the biggest chance. And it's going to be a brilliant safety shot there from Mcgill. And John Higgins has defied himself, getting out of a snooker situation. Don't think he can see enough of the red, and even if he can, cue ball catching the thin edge of the reds is going to be heading way too close to the corner pocket, and therefore it's a shot that is not worth taking on there for Higgins. Has to be careful and has to be wise to it as well. So two cushion escape does seem logical. Try and get the reds in behind. He's got two groups now, one of three, one of two, and as long as he catches those with dead pace, I don't think you'll leave anything on there for Mcgill, but this is turning into a proper safety battle. And I was surprised to see that in the John Higgins against Anthony Mcgill battle. I was more expecting to see that with Sean Murphy and Mark Selby, but with Higgins missing the entire shot there, Mcgill had a quick look, but doesn't want to take this position away there from John. But ultimately, right now, any of the reds that he puts now, Anthony Mcgill will be a frame ball for him. And John Higgins can't afford to miss the reds 2 more times now, and 1 more time will mean that he's going to have to make a total clearance with all those reds being played with the black there. And this is just turning from bad to worse for John Higgins. I mean, especially after being so close to a 3-1 lead, can he be going 4-3 down here? Has to make this one stick right now. I think he'll... Well, does he go for 1 cushion escape right now? No, he still goes for 2. So needs to find a better line there. And don't think he did, because I think he's given a red away there. And, well, Mcgill was actually a little bit of a clue to me, because he was holding his fist there to sort of say good shot there with a little fist bump on the table. Then he stopped to have a look if he actually given a red away. And when he didn't, and when he realised he hasn't got anything to play, it did give a little fist bump to the table. So, in the end, John Higgins just about gets away with that shot. I think if he caught the red way too much in terms of the left-hand side of it, I think he could have freed up a space there for the red to be potable into the right corner. In the end, it's once again John Higgins with the safety shot to try and find escape from. Doesn't seem to get any better there for him. So, the position is going to be tricky from the perspective of, if he sends the cue ball towards the reds, he needs to make sure he gets the way home there, because there's not really a chance there for him. If he wants to send the cue ball onto the black cushion, it's a bad idea basically, because there's way too many reds for Mcgill to try and do something about. And even if he doesn't find an open shot, he'll surely be able to have a chance of his own to try and have at least one of those reds sent to the top part of the table, and with the remaining 4 maintain their shape. But it's a perfect shot there that Higgins could find in the circumstances like that. 62 points clear now. Anthony Mcgill with that 4 points, well, not necessarily deduction there for Higgins, but it's 4 points foul there that was given away to Anthony. And, well, for the first time in a couple of shots, Anthony Mcgill actually finds himself with a little bit of thinking process to do. I mean, he can try and go for this red into the left corner if he's all out of ideas, with the red, the blue, and still the cluster of the 3 reds being quite close to each other. It's going to be a very tough clearance there for John Higgins. Of course, can't afford to lose any more than 4 points at this stage, after giving that 4 points foul there himself. Is Mcgill going to go for this red in towards the left corner? Surely be a frame win if he gets this one, but in the end he actually could see enough of the red to try and play a safety shot of it, and still get himself into a prime position to become the winner and the first finalist here, should he go on to win 3 out of 5 frames there, and being close to claiming the opening one, get himself a 4-3 lead. But John Higgins won't give up that easily, as he just tries to get those reds into the play. And it's a brilliant shot there from his perspective in terms of getting the blue back into the play there. So it was always going to be a massive shot there for him. And the clearance, all of a sudden, has got a lot more possible now for John Higgins after that safety shot. Didn't pay too much of a price as well, which is going to be a bonus, because Anthony Mcgill only has got the slightest of the edges there, one of the top reds to see. So send this one into the left hand cushion, get the cue ball travelling in towards the green pocket in itself, and all of a sudden you're going to find yourself in quite a nice position there, especially being 62 points clear. And one thing that Mcgill also has to try and produce is every single time John Higgins goes for one of those reds to be freed up, he wants to try and make sure the red will go back on the cushion. But this is a mistake for Mcgill, and this could be an absolute massive mistake for John Higgins and for Anthony Mcgill as well. Remember what I said, that freeing up the blue is going to be a massive shot there for Higgins. Well, it's a massive blunder now for Anthony Mcgill, and it's a chance for John Higgins to try and take it away here. At least have some sort of attempt of a total clearance and get himself at least a point on the board in his frame. As he's got a red in towards the right middle, all about this angle on the black now. Doesn't want to be straight on it, and looks to be very straight though to me. And doesn't seem to be happy himself. But he can try and accelerate the cue ball and just force the angle with a little bit of right spin. Get himself lined up. One of those reds into the right corner. It's a massive shot now, Higgins. Anywhere but straight there for him. And is he going to have enough power on the cue ball? Just about enough to get himself lined up for a shot into the right middle though. So that will do at this stage. Any chance is better than no chance. And he's just looking at the scoreboard nervously just to ensure it's still alright in terms of the points available. 54 behind, 59 on the table. Can afford to lose 4 of those points, but would love to leave some of those for the time that he has to take the red out of the cushion there. He's currently sitting very comfortably there indeed. But being quite close to the right middle, keep that in mind as well. Because if you cannon the cue ball into it, and you judge the power to perfection, you can try and free up that red into the available middle pocket. But this is a mistake for Higgins yet again here. Just when it looked like he's done all of the hard work, that wasn't the hardest shot into the right middle for him to try and play. But he didn't manage to take this one on. And it is going to be Anthony Mcgill with, a frame ball certainly now to just roll in into the right corner and get himself more than 50 points clear now. 55 points behind now for John Higgins, 51 on the table. And this has not been a perfect performance from either one of the two, but the fact that Anthony Mcgill is going to find himself in the lead against John Higgins is probably a surprise to many here, as he'll certainly will do that as he gets the pink in towards the right corner. 61 points clear with only 51 on the table. It'll be a massive task for John Higgins to clear up from this position, let alone find 3 snookers. So, more than likely, we've seen the last of John Higgins in 7th frame. And to ensure that, he needs to roll this red in towards the yellow pocket there. And he will do that, Anthony Mcgill. So when John Higgins is struggling, Mcgill seems to be finding all of the pace and all of the traction there that we were seeing from him earlier in this campaign. As he gets the green in, don't think he's going to get himself on the red though. So it looks like the break of 11 points is all that's going to be here from Anthony Mcgill, but it's still going to be enough there for him. As he goes for a double, doesn't get anything from that. So it will be 4-3 lead now to Anthony Mcgill to get himself through to frame number 8 there. And if John Higgins is to win this match right now, he's got a massive task on his hands. And it doesn't get any easier from here. It is now Anthony Mcgill 4, John Higgins 3, all to play for. But this time it's advantage Anthony Mcgill going into frame number 8. That percentage for Higgins better drop down, because still being at 73% is not representing the entire picture right now. And it's going to be a little bit of an issue for John Higgins to try and get himself back in the winning situation here, because for that you'll need to win 2 of the frames to ensure that Anthony Mcgill is not going to be only 1 frame away from becoming the finalist here at the British Open. It will be a massive shock there if the world number 57, that's going to evaporate and sort of destroy the record of Luca Brissell for this season, being the world 41 that managed to get himself into the quarterfinal. Then we had the world number 91 and 88 reach the quarterfinal here at the British Open. And if Anthony Mcgill, the world number 57, manages to go on the campaign that he's had, beat Stan Moody, Sal Godon there, and John Higgins to the list, that will be an absolute filthy campaign for him to try and perform. But he still has 2 massive frames ahead of him to try and win, if that is going to be the case for him. And finding himself in a little bit of a different situation than the one that he was actually facing himself with against Lou Heathcote. And I just want to check what are the odds for him looking. So, for the first time in this match, Anthony Mcgill is actually coming into this frame as a favourite. So, very much nothing to separate the two in terms of who's going to win any of the other next frames. But John Higgins finds himself being the underdog right now at this stage of the match to Anthony Mcgill. That has performed well, you have to say. And it has been a brilliant performance there for him. But John Higgins has to make sure he finds some of the answers to the brilliance of Anthony Mcgill and hope that there are going to be some of the mistakes provided to him. And, well, one could have been on the way there, just as I say that, of a break-off shot from Anthony Mcgill. It gives the red away into the right middle, but ultimately there's going to be a brown in between the cue ball and the red there. Or is there? I mean, I would have thought there is brown in between the cue ball and the red, but John Higgins certainly tries to go for this red. Can he see enough of it to try and pot it? Yes, he can is the answer. I thought the brown was in the way, but it certainly wasn't. And, I mean, this could be a very costly mistake for Anthony Mcgill. And once again, not for the first time that we see such a horrible break-off shot there. One of the reds has clipped up the other as he bounced off the black ball cushion and he's gone in towards the right hand side of the table and very close to the right middle pocket as well. So this is turning into a rain of chances for John Higgins, but just the ones that he didn't manage to convert previously. The only time that really I've seen him being clinical was in frame number 5 there, with that brilliant century of 111 points. And up until, or ever since then, it's all been just glimpses of what John Higgins can actually produce when he's in the form of his life. Right now, yet again, he has to find himself chasing a break here. Going for the red in towards the left corner. Sending the cue ball up towards the top part of the blue. And, well, I mean, it's still 2 frames needed for Anthony Mcgill to become the finalist. And it's still 3 frames needed for John Higgins to become the finalist. So the match is far from over. And it's been more than 3 hours since it actually started. So Higgins has to make this break count for himself. Has to roll the black in towards the right corner. Does that nicely. Gets himself lined up for the red in towards the same corner there. And thank you very much for 120 people watching me right now. Feel free to hit the like on the stream and subscribe to the channel. I mean, if you're not entertained by this match, I don't know what entertains you. Because that is a thing of beauty. I mean, probably the match of the tournament so far has probably been Sean Murphy against Judd Trump. For the pure drama that best of 7 match has had. But this is going right next to it. If it goes the distance, you still have absolutely no clue who's going to be the winner here. And I did mention that John Higgins has already managed to take 2 deciders away from his opponents in this tournament. And we are going to see what he's going to try and do from here. As he's got a blue ball to try and go for into the left middle. And it's a very important shot for him to try and take on. But this is so unlucky there from Higgins. He's done absolutely everything right. But in the end, it's not going to matter because it's going to be 5 points of a foul to Anthony Mcgill. And this is turning into an absolute disaster there for Higgins because that time he probably was actually doing everything right there. He still finds himself losing the control of the cue ball. And, well, it wasn't really losing the cue ball control. It was just so unlucky. When you go into the reds from the blue, you always risk of having at least one of those drop into the right corner. And that's exactly what happened to John Higgins. And Anthony Mcgill is now finding himself in the perfect circumstances there. 1 red to go into the right corner. I mean, what a split that was as well for Higgins. Surely would have been a contention for a 4-4 lead there. For a 4-4 draw, I should say. After the 8 frames. But all of a sudden, the frame has been turned on its head. And this is now Anthony Mcgill's frame to lose through no fault of John Higgins here, unfortunately. And sport can be cruel to you, but this is where he goes back to the chances that Higgins had missed previously that were his fault. Sometimes you're going to have moments like that you're not going to be out of your control, but you have to be there when it matters. And so far, something that John Higgins didn't manage to produce. And talk about performance, talk about making it count. Anthony Mcgill still has a little bit of work ahead of him to try and do. There's that 9 points separate the two players here. And Mcgill lines himself up for a shot of the black here in towards the left corner. So play this one in with some sort of power to go into the reds. I think is going to be the right decision. So he didn't think so. He obviously thought that he's got some of those available into the right middle. Has he got one available into the right corner as well? That's going to be an important shot for him to try and check there. I don't think he does though. So he has to go for a shot into the right middle. So the angle on the cue ball is going to naturally bring the white on towards the black there. So not going to have any issues or problems in terms of getting himself on for the black here. But instead it's going to be a little bit of a difficulty trying to accelerate the cue ball into the red that is going to be on the black ball cushion, which is the red that I thought he hesitated to go for. So I thought maybe he'll just find enough of the angle on the cue ball, try and accelerate it into the open area. In the end, that didn't happen. And Anthony Mcgill just trying to roll this red in towards the left corner and hopefully miss the front jaw of the pocket. The back jaw shouldn't do any damage to him. That's exactly what he's done. Give an advantage to the back jaw and find himself 25 points clear after a massive chance given away to him by the fortune and the snooker gods. And as he messes up the chance here though, he doesn't want to be facing this red with into the middle. Has he got enough of the red to try and see in towards the right corner? He seems to be quite confident in it and seems to be more concerned about the reds he just put on the cushion there. I think he's going to be way clear of that zone and he's not going to need the red that he's worrying about. Well, now though, the main thing is all about trying to pot the reds that are available to him. So gets himself nicely onto the red into the right corner. Has the black to follow up right now. And it's a passive shot now for him to try and take on. He will make this one count and gets himself in the prime position once again in amongst the reds into the left middle pocket here. So really nice shot selection on the previous time of asking, getting that red eliminated along the cushion there. And this time he finds himself 40 points clear of John Higgins. So those two reds will put him comfortably above the value of 51 points, which is going to be available to John Higgins. Just about gets the red in towards the left corner. And 41 points right now to separate in between himself and John Higgins here. So has to be careful though with these blue. I think he didn't necessarily want to be playing blue here right now because you'll have to use the cushion. Probably the two of them off the left hand side of the table to get himself lined up for the red. But he's done that absolutely beautifully. So this is now 2 shots to get him over the line of frame ball. And Anthony Mcgill just played through this red on towards the right corner. And have himself lined up for a frame ball, which is going to be the pink here. 47 points ahead right now, so that will put him 53 points clear. And only one more red. And surely that will be framed to Anthony Mcgill. And from a 2-3 gap there to John Higgins, he can turn this one into 3 frames, 1 on the bounce there for him. As he gets himself in behind the red nicely into the left middle. So all about this red now. And it will be the last that we see of John Higgins. Very cruel to see the frame end for him like that. Potting the red alongside the blue. But this is snooker for you. And this is going to be snooker because this is Anthony Mcgill's show. 87 points, plays 13. as he sends the cue ball into the bunch of reds. Certainly is going to be a 5-3 gap there to Anthony Mcgill here. He gets himself in amongst the reds for a potential century break still on the cards. The break of 99 is the highest that Anthony Mcgill has managed to produce. Had a chance to take it to a 3-digit number, but failed to pot the green in towards his own pocket. And Mcgill has to just take his time on the shot selection and try and roll this red along the cushion nicely. So the century hunt is still on, and probably not too many problems for him to try and experience right now. The black to go into the right corner, and the red will go into the left middle shortly, unless he wants to end up on the top part of the red and send it into the left corner. Gets a little kiss of the pink as well. And he's going to be now 68 points lead for Anthony Mcgill. And looking very, very nicely indeed. So not looking good for Big John. Well, I mean, not necessarily looking, but as I say, it's nothing he could have done in that performance. He's done everything right in this frame, but he just has to be very unlucky, potting the red off the blue. And, well, what follows could be a century break right now for Anthony Mcgill. Once again, needs the maturity of the 6 colours to get himself onto the 3-digit numbers. And, well, right now on 91 points, in terms of the ones that he managed to accumulate. And the break is going to be a little bit lower than that. So, 89 points right now. And gets himself on for the brown. So pink is going to be the colour for him to try and make it the break of 100 points plus. So still 18 points on the table. So it doesn't look like he's going to struggle with it from the second time of asking. As I say, that the green was probably just a lack of concentration. Well, I mean, I say that, and he's still landing himself really awkwardly on this pink. I mean, surely he ain't going to do it twice in a row. A break of 99 once again here for Mcgill. And just roll the pink for a century break. And he will do that. So a break of 105 points to get himself over the line and produce the highest break for himself, making a century break for good measure. Tough circumstances for John Higgins as he loses 3 frames in a row now. And it's Anthony Mcgill having 1 foot in the final of the British Open. This is when the pressure can start to do some damage to you. But this is the time for John Higgins to try and perform his best play. Something that we're yet to see from him in terms of the performance. And we're going to see if that is going to be justifiable in terms of that mistake from Higgins. Is he going to try and build up from there and just put that past him? Or is that going to get to his head and force him to go for the chances that are not necessarily going to be there for the taking? We're about to find the answers for all of these questions. As Anthony Mcgill is still looking to become the first finalist here, being only 1 frame away from doing that. As not too sure if it's going to be a 15 minutes break, because John Higgins has left here and there's going to be someone else to replace him. So I assume there's going to be some sort of short intermission here, and we'll be back as soon as he resumes. But I don't think we're going to stop the broadcast for now and go for an intermission break, because as I say, the person that's gone instead of John Higgins has already disappeared, so I'll probably just replace the water bottle for him for a request of Higgins himself. And the match will, I mean, it would be the time to do that because it's 4 frames. We had the intermission number 1, and after 4 more frames, logical thing for us to have his intermission number 2, but I think it's a little bit of a momentum breaker that the players consider it to be. And they just want to get it over the line as the semi-final and get themselves either out of the tournament, which is not going to be too much of a will for anyone, or into the final, which is looking very likely right now for Anthony Mcgill. And just as I checked the official standings there for him in terms of the ranking points that he managed to accumulate, it's actually looking really good in terms of the points that he'll actually achieve if he will become the finalist here, because I did mention he's the current world number 57, but if you look at the amount of points he actually managed to accumulate, throughout the entirety of season is 116,000 ranking points. So 45,000 is going to be pretty much 40% of that. And that is absolutely massive to do that in the 1 week there. It'll be quite a story there for Mcgill, but he's only 1 frame away from doing that. And John Higgins is now back to the table. And hopefully back to some of his best form here, as he needs to be. It is now Anthony Mcgill leading him by 5 frames to 3. And all to play for in what could be the final frame. And of course it still could be 3 more frames for us to see, including this one, as we are in the endgame phase. And very interesting to see the behavior of Anthony Mcgill. Is that going to change? Is he going to try a different approach there for himself? Or is he going to try and stick to the tactic that worked for him before and just try to roll those reds in, get themselves on the break, and be there when it counts? For now, he's got a nice little red to try and go for into the left corner. Is he going to take this one on, or is he just going to take a safety shot approach? He certainly won't do that, and the red is going to go very close on towards the right-hand corner. And has he got away with it, though? I mean, the red has travelled all the distance there along the cushion, nearly dropped into the right corner. Can Higgins get through to that red? Ooh, I think it's very, very tight there, but I don't think he can. Total last points of the last 3 frames, 250 for Anthony Mcgill, only 28 for John Higgins, so almost 10x advantage there for Mcgill. And, well, let's see what John Higgins will try and do after the shot. Probably can just about see enough of this red, but barely, and only just though. Needs to be very precise with his shot, because one mistake and it could be over for the campaign of John Higgins. Does he get any sort of luck here? Oh, I don't think he does, and he's going to be absolutely fuming with, well, I mean, whoever he can be fuming with, because I don't think he could have done anything else of his own. He gets a really unlucky kiss, and the cue ball is just no pace at all, and yeah, it's a horrible one for him to witness, because basically the cue ball was travelling to be nicely on the pink into the left middle, but last second it just got stuck to the red, and that way it wasn't really possible for him to try and pot the pink in towards the left corner. And in the end it is going to be Anthony Mcgill back with a safety play, with John Higgins ending the break on just 1 point scored. And Anthony Mcgill has to have a look here if he's got anything available into the left corner. Don't think he does though. So the white to be sent into the reds here is going to be the only sensible solution, you would think. Trying to split those up to some extent. Potentially get the pink spot free of any reds. And the black spot is going to be up there for development as well. That being covered up by 1 more red into either left or right corner. But in terms of Mcgill and his availability, I mean, I don't think... Wow, I mean, this is an absolute horrible shot there for him. He knew that one as soon as he hit it, and he's smiling about it, but the only reason he's smiling about it is because he knows he's 2 frames away there from Higgins. He basically just gifted him an open chance of no distance at all off the red and the cue ball. And just looking at the replay, yeah, I don't know what on earth he was doing. It wasn't like he got the cue ball and accidentally. I just think I don't know what he was doing really, because as I say, he wasn't sort of going back and forward there with the cue, trying to find the perfect aim. He was certainly hitting through the ball, but whatever it was, it's not looking good now for Anthony Mcgill, because he finds himself sat in his chair, and John Higgins yet again gets another chance to take it into frame number 10 at least for his name. It needs the match to go the distance for him to become victorious. And all Anthony Mcgill needs is 1 more frame win. Goodbye, John. I mean, I wouldn't say it's goodbye, John, just yet. I think he's still going to fight until the end. And it's never over until it actually is over. With 1 more black to go into the right corner there. I think he can try and go for the red in the same corner here, but I think the cue ball is going to be heading towards the blue there. And a little bit of trauma there from the last frame from John Higgins. In terms of that was the shot that ultimately cost him the frame through no fault of his own. Sending the cue ball nicely into the bunch of reds, but in the end, getting himself out of position here. And ready to go into the right corner. Nice shot there from Higgins. Had to be there when he counted. So does he go into the bunch of reds right now with the shot from the blue, or does he try and take two more that are available to him? I think that's exactly what he's going to try and do here. So 18 points clear in this frame number 9. So the red to go into the right corner yet again here. Get himself lined up on towards the left corner. And it's all going to be about the split into the bunch, because it's inevitable to try and avoid it. It's not going to have any reds at all after he gets this black and the following red. So it all comes down to the next 4 shots or so to get the position developed and try and take it from there in terms of executing the position that hopefully is going to be there for him to try and play it. For now, I think he's got a little bit of a free shot, try and get the cue ball sent into the bunch of reds, and he's just looking to see if there's going to be a plant available for him. A little shake of the head, probably a sign that there isn't. And has to fight back, and that's the only thing that is left there for him to do. As I say, it's not beyond the realms of possibility for him to try and win 3 frames on the bounce here. If Anthony Mcgill managed to do it against John Higgins, then John Higgins himself can certainly try and do identical sort of thing. But he has to start right now. And he decided to take one more red there into the left corner. The little look to the sky is not necessarily something that you want to see. Probably suggests that he's very close to the cue ball catching the front red. But looks to be alright here, just about. Squeeze the cue ball onto this red, in towards the left corner. Pass this one, but surely now. It was delaying the inevitable. This is a shot for him to try and do it. Send the cue ball into the reds here, and it all comes down to this in this frame for John Higgins, and this could shift the momentum for the entire match here. Does he get on the red? I mean, if he does, it's going to be a difficult shot for him to try and take on into the left middle. The reds are split up nicely, but the cue ball has got too much traction there to try and be sent towards the right corner. And if he does want to go for this shot into the middle, the pink is not going to be there for him. Getting on the blue is not going to be easy either. So the break of 37 points is good there, but it's not going to be enough for John Higgins to make it the one that counts against Anthony Mcgill. He's managed to take those situations to his advantage already, Mcgill. And could he do it one more time? Because John Higgins has missed that red in towards the left middle. Has he given anything away there? I mean, probably has given a lot of opportunity now. And a lot of chances to Anthony Mcgill into the right or left middle. And let's see what he can try and do from here. And as I say, the reds, the way they're spread out right now, is probably going to be the mirror of the scoreline that I predicted John Higgins to win by. I thought it was going to be his match for the taking. And I did expect Mcgill to take 3 frames away from him, but I certainly didn't expect to see the world number 57 to be only a handful of shots from the final. And that's exactly what we find ourselves in. And John Higgins just saying, well, after that miss. And he certainly knows that this is now, well, in hands of Anthony Mcgill. And this is certainly nothing he can do about it. His last shot is probably going to be the miss into the left middle. And what a chance this is. It's probably the best chance Anthony Mcgill will ever get in terms of the clearance for the final spot. He only finds himself 42 points behind. And when this break has started, it's already a lot less than that. And so many reds for him to try and choose from. Just pick those out one by one. Try and accumulate as many of those points as possible. Try and get himself lined up on the blue here, in towards the right middle. Nice shot there, well executed. And, well, if you have to give a little bit of a overview to this match, which I'm sure we will do. We'll do the good old tradition of the channel of the last couple of weeks, just showing do a little bit of an overview with the way the match has gone when he shifted. You have to give a shout out to Higgins. You know, he could have gone for a 3-1 lead into the intermission. He didn't do that. It looks like he was going to be the man in form and the man to catch after the intermission has ended. With him getting the first frame after the break, won by a century break as well. But it looks like it's going to be 4 frames on the bounce here for Anthony Mcgill, as he's got around 15 shots separating that in between himself and the final spot. And the clash with either Shaun Murphy or Mark Selby, we'll still yet to find out who his opponent is going to be. But what an achievement this is going to be, as he sends the cue ball nicely into the reds here, develops a couple of those. And, well, the position was looking nice anyway. It's looking perfect probably right now. The only colour that is off his spot currently is the brown, being replaced by the pink there. But I think when it gets to that point, I don't think Anthony Mcgill will need too many of those points. And majority of those reds is probably going to be enough there for him to have a significant points gap. He's only 14 points in behind right now. So he's got 40 more points available right now in purely the reds. So that will get him, 68 points. Yeah, he's going to be, it's all about getting those reds in, maybe getting the yellow and the green. And he won't have to worry about the brown there being off its spot. And, I mean, what could have been there for Higgins? Looks like it is going to be what could have been for Anthony Mcgill tomorrow in the final. One more underdog after Watchalong last week. Certainly the one that I would not have predicted to be anywhere near the final, let alone beating someone like John Higgins. You know, with this sort of consistency that has been out of the window today, but usually just on top of his game. So just a limited amount of pots now for Anthony Mcgill to get himself back level first and then try and run away 30 points clear or so into the final there, and a win of 6 frames to 3. This black will make sure that he's going to be equal on points. 3 more reds for him to try and make any usage of, and he's going to be nicely away into the yellow zone. And the yellow will become a frame ball if he does manage to pick those reds out with very expensive colours, which seems to be very much mission easy for him. The first one will go into the left corner. The black will follow up shortly in the same pocket there. And it looks like GG's. It definitely looks like GG's. Unfortunately, not the way that John Higgins would like to end this match. But in the end, you can't say it wasn't deserved. Unlucky Higgins, yes and well. He wasn't lucky in the previous frame. I think he certainly only has himself to blame for the performance. And you can't always blame the single frame for the entire match. As I say, if you won that match, it still would have been 5-4 in favour of Mcgill. Because this one, he deserved to lose. And all the other ones, I can't really think of any that Mcgill had an incredible points of luck. And when it comes to the first 4 frames, Higgins could have won all 4 of them. And we're going to talk about on the match overview shortly. But now easy final for Selby and Murphy. Yeah, but I bet you would have said the same about Higgins when he was coming into this match, wouldn't you? It's never easy until you get there. Just look at Watchalong. My prediction, Selby will remain champion. Nah, my prediction is going to be Murphy. My prediction was going to be Murphy anyway, even if Higgins managed to overcome Mcgill. But I've been talking about a dark horse. He needs 2 more pots now, Mcgill, to get himself into the ranking event final. Something that he didn't manage to do in that incredible decider against Karen Wilson in the World Championship. Well, it's not quite a World Championship space, but it certainly is a chance now for him. The yellow is going to be the frame ball, and the green will ensure that this is going to be the end of John Higgins' campaign at the British Open. It was good while it lasted, but doesn't look like it's going to last for any more than 2 shots now for Anthony Mcgill. All about the green, maybe the brown, just to make sure that Higgins won't actually try and bother with any of the snooker pursuit. And right now, it's a gap of 29 points, still 22 on the table, so 2 snookers is possible on the brown. But if you roll this one into the corner pocket, it certainly is going to be frame and match to Anthony Mcgill. And what a performance this is going to be. And this is going to be a performance to remember for Anthony Mcgill, because he rolls the brown in towards the yellow pocket, and all of a sudden he is going to be the winner of this semi-final clash against John Higgins. Brilliant there for him. All over, thank you, mate. See you soon in the next match. Certainly, feel free to check out the International Championship qualifiers. I will let you know either in the description or have a stream set up for you as soon as I know the prediction there. And it's all about the 7 points and a total clearance for Anthony Mcgill. 93 points of a break, and it's a brilliant performance for him in the end. John Higgins will have something really positive for him to say, because this will mean a world to Anthony Mcgill. And well, what a performance. Certainly would not have predicted this. But right now, it is congratulations to Anthony Mcgill. And, John Higgins has managed to play his part in the opening stage of this match. But in the end, will come up short against the player that was the better player at the end of it. Happy days, thanks for streaming. Enjoy the atmosphere tomorrow. Thank you very much, and will do. And as I say, let's go for the match overview right now, with the match being over. And, we all know who's the winner going to be. Right, let's take it frame by frame basis. What have we learned in terms of what have we seen in the performance from John Higgins? The opening frame was a little bit scrappy from both players, but Mcgill managed to get himself up ahead, and ultimately it was a chance of a clearance there for John Higgins, but he didn't manage to take this one, did he? Because he had a chance to get himself perfectly on the yellow for a straightforward 6-colour clearance, and he didn't convert this one to anything in the end. Getting too close to the brown, going for the yellow that probably wasn't on there for him. And he gave away a ball in hand there, with the cue ball dropping into the left middle. And it was a chance wasted there for Higgins. He managed to recover though in frames 2 and 3 with a brilliant performance of his own. Making the most out of the errors that were for him. Keep singing and dancing happy. Well, this is what I'm saying. It's all about the enjoyment. And he did manage to get the most out of the positional play for the second and third frame. But ultimately, I think the fourth frame was the biggest momentum changer that I've seen in John Higgins' matches, not in his favour. Because he was in with a chance to go for an easy breakaway chance. Once again, all he had to do was to try and roll the red in towards the right corner off a rest shot. And it was one of the easiest shots that you'll see John Higgins miss, certainly in my lifetime. But in the end, Mcgill went on to clear up from the table, produce a break of 99 points there to close off the opening mini session. And 15-minute session interval, you think this is going to be probably a chance for Higgins to try and redeem himself, and it was. Because he actually managed to produce a brilliant clearance of 111 points, a century break, get himself a 3-2 lead. But how on earth do you go for such a brilliant start to the second mini session and then you go on to lose 4 frames in a row? Well, the answer is a little bit mixed, because frame number 6 was Mcgill's frame to lose. He was always dominating that, and he was always leaving Higgins with a little bit of difficult shots to try and go for. You remember all the reds that they were battling for in the safety play. In the end, Mcgill forces a couple of snooker attempts, and he comes out victorious. And what happens from there? It was the 7th frame that I think was a massive turning point there for him, because John Higgins could have been in with a chance, and a brilliant chance, to get himself lined up for a shot of, the entire break, the frame-winning break, really. When he lines himself up for the shot in the blue, he does get unlucky. But you can't always blame the luck for that, because in all the other frames, it was fair and square for Mcgill. And after that mistake, you still have to give Mcgill some flowers, because it's one thing missing a chance that you get, but it's very different. It's something very different for you to try to make the most out of the chance that your opponent misses, whether he gets lucky or unlucky or whatever. And until then, he was probably not looking back there from Mcgill. Gets himself a 5-3 lead. What is it? 3 frames on the bounce, and the 9th frame was a straightforward clearance at some point for Higgins on the bounce. He manages to get himself into the reds off the black there, but not necessarily getting the boost and the most out of the position on that red. Gets himself lined up for the shot into the left middle, but plays that one with such a reckless power, being out of control. And in the end, not necessarily ending on anything in terms of the colour as well. Leaves away a chance for a clearance there for Mcgill. And a chance that was well taken there from Anthony Mcgill. That was the final chance that was required there for Anthony to get himself over the line and end a brilliant performance. As I say, if he plays like this tomorrow against either Shaun Murphy or Mark Selby, he'll certainly be in with a great shout there. But until then, we'll have to wait and see how the second semi-final will end. As I say, once again, brilliant congratulations there to Anthony Mcgill, and commiserations to John Higgins. Managed to play his part, but ultimately wasn't good enough. And yeah, that's going to be it for the broadcast. Thank you very much for everyone tuning in. And yeah, feel free to subscribe on the way out. Hit the like to the screen as well. And see you all soon. Thanks for watching.